1201. The fake Immortal network is weaved secretly. The sound of devout prayer echoed in the underground chamber. Like an ancient ballad, timeless and mysterious. These people were naturally the Nether race. With the combined efforts of Li Ping's disciples, almost all of the Nether race had been captured into the Great Qi small world. Li Ping knew that the entity behind the Dark Sea didn't mind its followers having other beliefs. So, through a combination of coercion and enticement, and ultimately demonstrating the reality of coexistence in front of the entire Nether race, they quickly adapted to this life. Some even held a more steadfast and fervent faith in the Holy Emperor than in the Dark Sea. After all, in times of crisis and near extermination, the Dark Sea had not shown any divine intervention. But the heavenly mandate Holy Emperor truly distributed a large amount of resources to everyone at regular intervals. In the darkness, listening to the unified chanting of the Nether race, Li Ping felt specks of golden source power forming within him. The faith power condensed from just 100 Nether people is more than the entire population of Great Qi combined. What secrets are hidden within the Nether race? Li Ping had already sent the corpses of some Nether people who dared to resist to Yin Shengren for him to study. It just so happens that his research on the new laws has also reached a bottleneck. Changing the research topic might spark unexpected inspiration. Of course, Li Ping wasn't particularly concerned about the real reason behind the Nether race's special physique. The cause didn't matter, as long as it could be used by him. His figure flickered, and Li Ping arrived at another enclosed space near the prayer chamber. Xuanba, how is the research going? Can the transplanted flesh promote the reproduction of the Nether race? Wang Xuanba, who was intently focused on something ahead, quickly withdrew his gaze upon hearing his master's arrival. He respectfully bowed and then reported, after several experiments, I have found the best combination of exotic beast flesh. I have named it the life primordial embryo. With sufficient male and female essence, it can cultivate a large number of younglings at an extremely terrifying speed. But, after all, these younglings are not conceived in a mother's womb. They are born inherently weak, and their expected lifespan will probably not be too long, Wang Xuanba said very cautiously. Unlike his previous honest and strong youthful appearance, Wang Xuanba was now thin. He had received Li Ping's careful guidance, and then devoured a lot of exotic beast flesh, mastering a large number of exotic beast abilities. Now, his level of understanding of exotic beasts even surpassed Li Ping's. After learning that his master was troubled by the low fertility rate of the Nether race, he volunteered to share his master's worries. So, he actually created the life primordial embryo, a rather shocking thing. Completely composed of wriggling pink exotic beast flesh, its interior was a series of enclosed chambers. Countless tubes connected these chambers to the primordial embryo's body. While solving the problem of energy supply for the nurtured offspring, it also allowed the life primordial embryo to absorb the characteristics of these large numbers of offspring it cultivated. This is a win-win process. Each time a new offspring is cultivated, it becomes more intelligent and powerful. Although this progress is very small, it can be accumulated with quantity, thereby achieving a transformation within the expected time. If my prediction is correct, the life primordial embryo may no longer need male and female essence in the future and can create life on its own, as long as there is enough energy. When talking about exotic beasts, even in front of his teacher, Wang Xuanba's tone was full of confidence. Li Ping's gaze pierced through the darkness, looking at the huge, flesh mass, in the distance that was constantly pulsating as if it were breathing. I only need the number of them that can work for me at the same time. As for lifespan, just recreate them when they die. The Holy Emperor's words were full of coldness. Wang Xuanba did not feel anything strange upon hearing this. After all, in his eyes, these headless Nether people were not much different from those exotic beasts and could not be considered human at all. You need to strictly keep everything here a secret. Even from your senior brothers and junior brothers, Li Ping said again. Disciple understands, Wang Xuanba said in a deep voice. After Li Ping left, he began to continue his research work. Compared to dealing with the complicated things outside, he still preferred these pure and simple things. In just a few years, the life trajectory of the stalwart youth from under Jiali Mountain had undergone such a huge change. However, among Li Ping's disciples, Wang Xuanba was not the one who had changed the most. Wang Xuanba's actions still faintly showed shadows of the past. Completely different from before, having completely changed into another person, was Li Ping's fifth disciple, O Shangtian. After coming to Great Qi with his father and being accepted as a personal disciple by Li Ping, he had transformed from his previous taciturn, wary, and insecure self into the spirited youth he was now. Acting decisively and looking down on everything. Although the youngest among the disciples, his true strength surpassed everyone else. Throughout Great Qi, besides Li Ping, there was probably no one who was his opponent. Even if Li Ping were to step in, it would not be easy to subdue O Shengtian without using some secret techniques and divine powers. In addition to O Shengtian's 2 innate treasures, the Kun Qian bone hand and the myriad death record. Not long ago, O Shengtian had also fished up a 7-colored divine light in the fishing pond under Li Ping's guidance. With the protection of the 7-colored divine light, plus the heaven-defying escape abilities of the Kun Qian bone hand and the myriad death record, O Shengtian's life-saving abilities were even stronger than most Hidao in the Xuanwang realm. After easily suppressing several small worlds in several actions, this young man became more and more arrogant. Fortunately, with his father and Li Ping suppressing him, he had not done anything out of line. When he worked with Wang Xuanba to capture the nether race before, he became interested in Wang Xuanba's unpredictable exotic beast abilities. So, he asked Li Ping for the cultivation method of the creation furnace skill, and he was working hard to cultivate it during this time. Li Ping was not worried that O Shengtian would get out of control. Before he showed signs of getting out of control, he would decisively take action. The golden source power condensed by the nether race had been quietly injected into the bodies of various key figures in Great Qi. This power, which was infinitely close to the power of a true immortal, could not be detected by these so-called geniuses. Only Baihua, that old thing from the ancient cultivation world, could know the details. Since you have fallen into my net, you can only work hard for me. After all gifts have already been marked with a price. With the pure golden source power as a trump card, he could already start planning the invasion of the Xuanwang realm. 1202. The soul returns home after 1,000 years. Even though the Holy Dynasty's apparent strength has expanded rapidly, it is still far from enough to challenge the Myriad Immortals Alliance and the 5 Elders Council. Therefore, the initial stage of the plan remains focused on infiltration and erosion. During the Xuanwang Great Upheaval more than half a year ago, the Immortal Alliance lost quite a few grassroots cultivators. Now, there are already rumors circulating in the dark that the Immortal Alliance will conduct a certain degree of expansion in the upcoming entry examination. Li Ping has already selected a group of good seedlings, preparing to take advantage of this opportunity to send them into the Myriad Immortals Alliance. Although grassroots cultivators seem insignificant, they can slowly corrode the internal rule of the Immortal Alliance like termites. Moreover, as time goes by, the greater their cultivation and merit, the higher their positions will be, and the greater the harm and influence they will cause. The investment cost is extremely low, but the effect is excellent. The more the better. With the existence of the Golden Source Power Network, not only can it allow them to successfully lurk into the Immortal Alliance, but it can also firmly control them from beginning to end. Without needing to meet in reality, they can complete the exchange of information and even resources. This kind of contact method is far more concealed and secure than the Myriad Immortals Alliance and the 5 Elders Council, making it extremely difficult for them to discover. In addition to eroding the Myriad Immortals Alliance from within, reducing its potential must also be carried out simultaneously. In the Xuanwang realm, all the outstanding practitioners of the next 100 years must be fully controlled. If they cannot be used by me, they should be eliminated as soon as possible. We can even divert disaster eastward and blame the assassination plan on the 5 Elders Council. I'll sit back and watch the tigers fight. While weakening the Myriad Immortals Alliance by various means, Li Ping will certainly not slow down the development of the Holy Dynasty. When the number of nether race people reaches a certain scale and enough pure golden source power is collected, Li Ping will use it to transform the heaven and earth myriad spirits array. Truly transforming the Great Qi small world into an impregnable fortress, hidden and wandering in the void. I can feel that since the arrival of Xuanwang talents such as Yin Shengren and O Daozi to serve me in the Great Qi small world, the Holy Dynasty's atmosphere, which was originally in a bottleneck, has ushered in the possibility of a breakthrough again. This is the waxing and waning. I have forcibly swallowed the luck that originally belonged to the Myriad Immortals Alliance. It's just that it's not enough to completely satisfy the promotion. In addition to plundering luck from the outside world, which requires accumulation over time, the very grade of the Great Qi small world is also a major constraint. Perhaps it's time to consider upgrading the small world. With a thought, Li Ping returned to the Holy Emperor's throne. Before long, Sun Erlang, surrounded by a chilling aura, appeared before him. The brave young man of the past has grown into a terrifying killing god in the Holy Dynasty. Commanding the Holy Dynasty's imperial guards, conquering all realms. Over the years, countless creatures from other small worlds have died tragically at the hands of Sun Erlang. Greetings, Master. Sun Erlang knelt on one knee. How is the construction of the myriad spirits array in the various realms progressing? Li Ping asked. 11 have been completed, 6 are still under construction, Sun Erlang replied concisely, while transmitting the specific information with his divine sense. In the recent period, suspend the conquests for now. The expansion is too fast, and we need to digest it properly. In those small worlds, anyone who has the will to resist will be killed without mercy. I don't want the backyard to catch fire when we officially go to war with the Myriad Immortals Alliance. The meaning revealed in Li Ping's words made Sun Erlang's spirit invigorated. Even though he knew that his master's plan was very ambitious, this was the first time he had clearly expressed his plan to conquer the Myriad Immortals Alliance. This made Sun Erlang, who had been feeling bored because conquering those small worlds was like chopping melons and vegetables without any pressure, instantly excited. Li Ping naturally saw what Sun Erlang was thinking at a glance. Having seen too many sheep, you think the world is full of sheep. Not to mention the Myriad Immortals Alliance, even some of the hidden small worlds in the Xuanwang realm are not something our current Holy Dynasty can match, Li Ping said lightly, then pointed at Sun Erlang. Go to this place. It is the hidden location of the ancient Tian sect. See if you can persuade them to join our alliance. Tian sect. Sun Erlang's eyes flickered. Go. There is something special about that place, and you will know it when you get there. Don't force it. My purpose is only to make you restrain your arrogance. Unlike the cultivation strategy for Shangtian, when Sun Erlang's path showed a slight deviation, Li Ping chose to actively help him correct it. In addition to having a deeper relationship with Sun Erlang, Li Ping also needed a powerful senior brother to suppress all other disciples. So, he inevitably put more effort into nurturing him. I hope this kid will gain something from the trip to the Tian sect, Li Ping thought as he sat on the Holy Emperor's throne. It is said that Sun Erlang came to Yi Xing's tomb according to the instructions of the Holy Emperor. After collecting Yi Xing's remains and the white paper all over the ground, Sun Erlang went straight to his destination. I didn't expect that there is such an ancient immortal cultivator's tomb within the Great Qi territory. I just don't know what these papers that the teacher specially asked me to collect are for. On the way, Sun Erlang carefully studied them, but he couldn't find the mystery in them. Suppressing the confusion in his heart, Sun Erlang soon arrived at his destination. Taihua Prefecture, Taishuan Mountain. Master said that the entrance to this Tian sect is hidden inside this mountain. After searching around, he didn't find any traces of a space passage. Sun Erlang couldn't help but feel troubled. If he used brute force to open a passage in the mountain, it wouldn't be impossible. However, he was here to be a lobbyist, to persuade the other party to join the Holy Dynasty Alliance, so rashly destroying the other party's sect residence. After thinking about it, Sun Erlang still didn't act rashly. On Taishuan Mountain, he chose a place with good feng shui. He dug a pit and then took out Yi Xing's bones. Just as he was about to bury them, a figure suddenly appeared behind Sun Erlang. Sure enough, he's here. Sun Erlang thought to himself. On the surface, he pretended to be facing a formidable enemy. Who is it? The figure ignored Sun Erlang and just stared at Yi Xing's bones. As if immersed in some kind of memory, he remained motionless for a long time. Sun Erlang was not a reckless warrior, so naturally he would not disturb this figure, who seemed unfathomable in strength. He just waited patiently in silence. If Big Brother, you had waited a few more years, maybe everything would have been different. After a long time, the figure sighed, waved his sleeve at Yi Xing. Yi Xing's bones disappeared in an instant, and he turned to look at Sun Erlang. Young man, why have you come? Sun Erlang looked at the face in front of him, which seemed to be about the same age as himself, hesitated for a while, and still truthfully stated his purpose. There may be a chapter around 1230. 1203, the fate changes suddenly. A great Kia A. The Tian sect cultivator narrowed his eyes, as if countless lights and shadows flashed within. A great Zon. A. Not knowing what he saw, his tone became very surprised, and he turned to look at Sun Erlang. In just a few years, such a big deviation has already appeared. What's going on? Sun Erlang was at a loss, not knowing what the other party was talking about. Interesting, come with me. The Tian sect cultivator carefully looked at Sun Erlang again, and then spoke. After speaking, his figure instantly became transparent. A silver illusory road was generated under his feet, leading directly to the inside of the mountain. Sun Erlang turned into a ray of light and followed closely behind. After they entered the mountain, the silver road also disappeared. Even the pit that Sun Erlang had dug on Taishuan Mountain was silently restored. My name is Yishu. The skeleton you sent back is my clan brother. While walking, the Tian sect disciple said to Sun Erlang. Back then, when the great calamities such as the inability to cultivate multiple laws simultaneously and the immortal mortal miasma arrived, my clan brother retreated bravely and took refuge in the mortal world. Although he has no chance with the immortal path since then, he has also achieved the position of mortal emperor. It can be said that it was the destiny. Thousands of years have passed, and the day of reunion will be like this. Although I had expected it when we parted. Fate is tricking people. Simulating illusory scenes is still different from the real scene. Yishu sighed softly and remained silent. Simulation, real scene. Sun Erlang keenly captured two key words in Yishua's words. This Tian sect was famous all over the world for its deduction techniques in ancient times. The simulation and deviation, he said, could it be the future in their deduction? Going deep underground, when the scene reappeared in front of him, it was already high above the sky. The blue sky was as clear as washing, and below were thousands of miles of fertile farmland. Sun Erlang could clearly perceive the aura of the numerous mortals here. However, Yishu was flying towards the front. Sun Erlang quickly followed, and suddenly a doubt arose in his heart. Because after entering this small world, Yishu seemed to have undergone some changes. But for a while, Sun Erlang couldn't tell where the change was. Did not notice any danger, and the master definitely would not harm Maya. Sun Erlang suppressed the strangeness in his heart and continued to follow. Before long, a floating city suddenly appeared in Sun Erlang's originally empty field of vision. The city was surrounded by a transparent crystal wall. It was because of the existence of this crystal wall that Sun Erlang had not noticed this city in the sky before. As expected, they have some tricks. They can completely isolate such a big city, Sun Erlang thought to himself. Yishu finally spoke again at this moment. The Taishuan realm was borrowed by our Tian sect. The immortals and mortals are separated. In order not to disturb the mortals in this realm, we built this crystal wall. Sun Erlang did not quite agree with what Yishu said about disturbing mortals. However, he didn't object in person, just nodded slightly. Passing through the transparent crystal wall, he officially arrived in the Tian sect. The moment he set foot on the ground, Sun Erlang suddenly realized that countless eyes seemed to be looking at him at the same time. Among them, there was no lack of the aura of a Dao integration realm expert. Sun Erlang was secretly startled. The strength of this Tian sect is too well preserved. There are still so many cultivators. How did they deal with the inability to cultivate multiple laws simultaneously? Going deep into the floating city, the strange feeling in Sun Erlang's heart became stronger and stronger. It's too quiet here. It does not look like a normal city full of vitality at all. Sun Erlang stopped. He finally discovered where the abnormality in his heart came from. The Tian sect cultivators here, like the tree ants in the spirit wood realm, although they have different faces, they all exude the same aura. It's like countless bodies of the same person. Although Sun Erlang was shocked, he was not flustered. Instead of thinking wildly in his heart, he directly asked, Senior Yi, your Tian sect Yishu seemed to see the doubts in Sun Erlang's heart and smiled. You will know everything when you see senior brother Chen later. But little Langjun, please rest assured, our Tian sect has always been clear about gratitude and grudges. You returned the corpse of the Tian sect disciple, which is considered a favor to the sect. Although the matter of alliance you mentioned may not be realized, you don't have to worry about your own safety. Sun Erlang was noncommittal and swallowed the words that came to his mouth. Following Yishu to the center of the suspended city, in a blue transparent crystal building. As if seeing countless versions of himself entering at the same time, after Sun Erlang woke up from the illusion, a handsome man with hair reaching his waist stood in front of him. Senior brother Chen. Yishu cupped his hands. Yixing also went to the Great Zon small world to carry out the secta's mission. Back then, because of his aptitude, he was never able to enter the inner sect to cultivate, and he always felt uneasy in his heart. And now that time has passed, what inner sect and outer sect have long become a joke. Let Yixing come back. Senior brother Chen, that is, Chen Tianai of the Tian sect who Li Fan had met once, said in a flat tone. Thank you, senior brother. Yishu gave a solemn salute. Then his figure turned into blue starlight and disappeared. Chen Tianai then looked at Sun Erlang. A word shocked the world. According to the original trajectory, you, Sun Erlang, repeatedly went to Jilishan to seek immortality without success, and then completely settled down, married and had children. 7 years later, because he was dissatisfied with the excessive demands of the newly appointed prefect, he angrily killed someone. Later, he and his companion Wang Zan seized the mountain as king and wreaked havoc on the countryside. After causing trouble for more than 10 years, he was finally wiped out by the imperial army. Yu and Wang Zan fought to the death and refused to surrender, and were dismembered by random knives. Sun Erlang raised his eyebrows as he listened to the afatia that belonged to him in the other party's mouth. But now, everything is different. Your future Chen Tianai's figure became blue and illusory. But after a while, it returned to its original state. Wonderful. Outside of variables. The Holy Dynasty is opening. A strange light flashed in Chen Tianai's eyes. In just a few years, it can cause such a big deviation. He muttered, as if he had discovered something extremely exciting. Do you know the origin of your master? Chen Tianai asked. Sun Erlang just looked at Chen Tianai quietly. Yes, let alone you don't know. Even if you know, I am afraid you won't say it, and you can't say it. Chen Tianai showed a strange smile. Sun Erlang suddenly felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. Wait, the technique you are practicing. Chen Tianai, who was observing Sun Erlang, suddenly changed the subject, somewhat uncertain. Is it the sitting mountain technique of the Shenmu sect? 1204. The Immortal World Yantian Chuan. Could it be that your master was a member of the Divine Wood sect back then? Chen Tianai seemed to have thought of something, his expression a mix of surprise and uncertainty. The Sitting Mountain Sutra. Hearing these 3 words, Sun Erlang's heart stirred slightly, a sense of familiarity inexplicably arising within him. No. However, before Sun Erlang could answer, Chen Tianai shook his head in denial. It's just that the aura is somewhat similar. Moreover, it is said that the Sitting Mountain Sutra is the cultivation method of that divine wood of the Divine Wood sect, exchanging years for cultivation. If ordinary cultivators were to practice it, it would be extremely arduous and progress would be extremely slow. Young lord, you are so young, yet you have already reached the great perfection of the nascent soul stage. Obviously, it doesn't add up. Chen Tianai laughed self-deprecatingly, looking at Sun Erlang, his curiosity growing even more. This junior indeed does not cultivate any Sitting Mountain Sutra, but rather a profound art personally passed down by my master. The reason I cultivate so quickly is mostly due to this profound art, Sun Erlang said in a deep voice. All right, then perhaps I was indeed mistaken. Chen Tianai didn't argue further, skipping over the topic. Senior, is this Divine Wood sect one of the 10 immortal sects of the past? Although he had clarified the origin of his cultivation method, Sun Erlang still had a trace of curiosity about the Sitting Mountain Sutra. So he directly asked. Sun Erlang discovered that this Tian sect was very different from the strict and hierarchical ancient immortal sects in his memory. There was almost no distinction between superiors and inferiors, and they addressed him, an extremely young outsider, as young lord, in a friendly manner. Although he didn't know the reason for creating such an atmosphere, it was undoubtedly a good thing for Sun Erlang, so he decided to do as the Romans do. Chen Tianai answered everything he knew, and after inviting Sun Erlang to sit down, he said, the Divine Wood sect is even older than our 10 immortal sects. In the same era as the Divine Wood sect were the Desolate God sect, the Reincarnation sect, and other ancient immortal sects that had long been destroyed. Before the immortal path was severed, some of them had already completely disappeared for various reasons. The Divine Wood sect is said to have been named after a divine wood from beyond the realm within the sect. This divine wood is said to have been bestowed by the immortal realm. After taking root in the Xuanwang realm, it displayed all sorts of incredible divine powers. But it was precisely because of this divine wood that it incurred the dissatisfaction of the Zhenghuan Hang Yuan. In the end, it led to its downfall. Truly, fortune and misfortune are unpredictable. The meaning of these 5 characters, Zheng Huan Heng Heng Yuan, is existing since ancient times, and will continue to exist eternally. Standing above the river of life, like a wall supporting the sky. It is an original ancient tree that has existed in the Xuanwang realm since its birth, and even holds the authority of longevity. The so-called, one mountain cannot accommodate 2 tigers. The growing strength of this divine wood from beyond the realm would inevitably pose a threat to it. Thus, the destruction of the divine wood sect ocarata. Chen Tianai casually recounted a series of ancient anecdotes. Since stepping onto the path of cultivation, Sun Erlang had only known cultivation and killing. This was the first time he had the good fortune to learn about these ancient secrets, and he listened with great interest. These desolate god sect, divine wood sect, just hearing their names, they seem different from other sects, Sun Erlang exclaimed. Chen Tianai smiled faintly, that's natural. These are all sects that were born since the creation of the Xuanwang realm, and they all have inextricable connections with the immortal realm. When the immortal realm is present, their status is naturally unshakable. However, if the immortal realm encounters great changes and the immortal path is severed, they will naturally no longer be prosperous. Sun Erlang nodded repeatedly as he listened. Young lord, do you know the origin of our Tian sect? Chen Tianai suddenly changed the subject and asked. This junior does not know, Sun Erlang honestly replied. Our Tian sect is a direct lineage of a true immortal, having obtained the 9 heavenly scrolls of derivation from the grand celestial diviner capable of glimpsing all possible changes in the next 1,000 years, Chen Tianai said proudly. Unlike the Sky Secret sect, a second-rate sect that pretends to be mysterious, we don't rely on some mysterious qi induction, but on powerful derivation abilities to perform a real pre-enactment of the future. Sun Erlang suddenly thought of the word, simulation, he had heard from Yeshu before. Young lord, please look. With a wave of Chen Tianai's hand, a small blue sphere suddenly appeared in front of Sun Erlang. Sun Erlang looked carefully, and within this blue sphere, countless overlapping images seemed to be presented simultaneously. The scenes were all of himself and Chen Tianai, conversing here. However, Sun Erlang keenly noticed that in each scene, his expression and movements were different. There were even some where he suddenly attacked here, and then was easily killed by Chen Tianai. This is all the possible futures that we have deduced since you arrived. However, during this period of contact with you, I have gained a clearer understanding of your temperament and strength. Therefore, some of these futures have already lost their meaning before they were deduced to their conclusion. As Chen Tianai spoke, about 4/5 of the scenes in the blue sphere suddenly dimmed. And the remaining scenes were exactly the same as what Sun Erlang was currently experiencing. Sun Erlang looked at this scene, as if he understood something. But when he thought about it carefully, he suddenly felt confused and unable to comprehend it. Chen Tianai continued. Just as we are talking, according to the content of the topics we are discussing, the derivation results that conform to the future trend become less and less. Eventually, when you leave, our derivation of this matter will come to an end and merge with reality. New derivations will occur again. The blue sphere completely dimmed. After a moment of silence, it burst out with a dazzling blue light. The sphere disappeared, turning into a blue mist, floating in front of Sun Erlang. The blue mist demonstrated countless possibilities for the entire Xuanwang realm's future. Calculating the Xuanwang realm is the same in essence as calculating this small matter of meeting you. As long as we have enough information and correct the deviations in the derivation results in a timely manner, we can simulate a future Xuanwang realm. We can also see further in the river of time than outsiders. Chen Tianai waved his hand, and the blue mist, which evolved into various future scenarios, instantly retracted into his body. The originally extraordinary Chen Tianai suddenly turned into a dreamlike existence completely composed of blue crystals. This scene stunned Sun Erlang slightly. Our Tian sect has been calculating the future trajectory of the Xuanwang realm for over 1,000 years without any major errors. But now, Chen Tianai stared straight at Sun Erlang. It's like in this room where you and I are meeting, a mysterious person suddenly appears out of thin air, kills you, and then flees far away. This is completely beyond common sense, something that would never happen under normal circumstances. We call it outside the variable. The blue light on Chen Tianai's body gradually subsided, and he returned to his original normal appearance. There is still one chapter in 10 minutes. 12:05, the Tao returns to the Stone Mother. A strange glint flashed in Chen Tianai's eyes. My Tian sect has avoided the world for thousands of years, and rarely interacts with the outside world. Your master actually knows where we are hiding. He must have some understanding of us. Even so, he still took the initiative to send you to contact Yusa. This is because he is certain that we will be interested in this variable outside the variables. Sun Erlang was stunned when he heard this. Is that so? However, when he thought of his master's mysterious background and his seemingly omniscient divine powers, he instantly felt relieved. In this world, there is no shortage of transcendent variables. Some even deeply affect and change the fate of the Xuanwang realm. Although our Yantian 9 scrolls are said to be able to calculate everything in the world, if visitors from outside the sky or true immortals from heaven descend, such things that have already transcended the world itself happen. We are naturally powerless. Chen Tianai said without hesitation. However, our Tian sect does not reject or fear the occurrence of such variables. He said in a low voice, his words seemingly unfinished. Visitors from outside the sky. Sun Erlang was thoughtful. But immediately, he suppressed the slight fluctuation in his heart. No matter what his master's origins were, his current identity was the only holy emperor of destiny of the Daki dynasty, and the rise and fall of hundreds of millions of living beings were tied to him. As his master's eldest disciple, he would always stand firmly in front of his master. So, does this mean that Senior has agreed to our request to form an alliance? After a brief silence, Sun Erlang asked. If there is a chance of winning, why should we refuse? Chen Tianai smiled slightly, without answering directly. Then what does Senior mean? The simulation calculation has shown such a deviation, so we naturally have to make corrections. Since the Holy Dynasty Daki wants to form an alliance with us, then naturally it will not refuse the inspection of its allies, right? Chen Tianai said lightly. The other party's request was somewhat beyond Sun Erlang's expectations. When he came, his master did not tell him how to handle things. Erlang, you can make your own decisions in everything. This Tian sect is important to and also not important. Sun Erlang suddenly recalled the last sentence his master said before he left. If you are timid and afraid in the face of a small Tian sect, how will you compete with the myriad immortal alliance for the Xuanwang realm in the future? A surge of pride arose in his heart, and Sun Erlang blurted out, the Holy Dynasty Daki is waiting for you. You are welcome to come to the Tian sect at any time. A blue light flashed in Chen Tianai's eyes for no reason. He didn't respond, just wondering what he was thinking. Since little gentleman has said so, then our Tian sect will send an envoy to go to Daki with you. To find out what's going on. After a long while, Chen Tianai spoke. Sun Erlang didn't know why, but he suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. It was as if he had just walked on the edge of life and death. Then Senior, when shall we set off? Don't worry, guests from afar are always welcome. Little gentleman has come here from thousands of miles away, which is not easy. Our Tian sect has not had a guest visit for thousands of years. Moreover, you also sent back Yi Xing's bones. Chen Tianai pondered for a moment and asked, I wonder, little gentleman, are you interested in our simulation? Naturally, I am curious. Chen Tianai nodded, and the surrounding ground and decorations disappeared in an instant. The two seemed to appear in the void, with a blue crystal in front of them, emitting a soul-stirring light. This is the Transformation Dao Stone Mother. Chen Tianai said inexplicably. Transformation Dao Stone Mother. Sun Erlang repeated these 4 words. Looking at the mysterious crystal not far away, Sun Erlang was horrified to find that he could not distinguish the details of the crystal surface. It seemed to be infinitely divisible, and each mirror-like edge had countless tiny surfaces extending when viewed closely. Just peeking at it for a while, Sun Erlang felt dizzy. He immediately looked away. The Transformation Dao Stone Mother is the foundation of our Tian sect. Although the great Dharma Master passed down the Yantian 9 scrolls back then, the Dharma door is about the creation of heaven and earth, and it is really not something that ordinary people can study. Even a peerless genius, if he wants to cultivate the Yantian 9 scrolls to great success, will have to exhaust his efforts and not live long. Chen Tianai flashed and appeared next to the huge blue crystal. His figure seemed to merge with the Transformation Dao Stone Mother. It is so difficult for geniuses to cultivate, let alone ordinary people. The characteristic of the Yantian 9 scrolls' cultivation technique is destined that each generation of our Tian sect can only have a few disciples. Talents are withering, and the sect is difficult to grow. Perhaps one day, even the name of the Immortal Tao 10 sects will be difficult to preserve. This was originally the ending of our Tian sect in the calculation. If there is no transformation Tao Stone Mother. Chen Tianai's tone suddenly changed. Even if it is just a small fragment of the Stone Mother, it can instantly give a mortal the ability to perform calculations comparable to a He-Dao powerhouse. What a great creation this is. Little gentleman, those white papers that Yi Xing carried with him before his death, have you brought them? Chen Tianai looked at Sun Erlang and suddenly asked. Only then did Sun Erlang suddenly remember and quickly took out the white papers. These white papers have a name, called the Reverse Calamity Treasure Box. It is a common tool used by the disciples of the Tian sect in the past to practice their derivative calculation abilities. There are a total of 49,999 papers. You only need to restore them to their original order to reproduce the appearance of the treasure box. Little gentleman, would you like to give it a try? Chen Tianai threw the white papers into the air, letting them scatter randomly. Then he looked at Sun Erlang and asked with a smile. Restore them in order. Sun Erlang had studied those white papers before, and they were all exactly the same, with no special markings. It all depends on luck, there are no special secrets. Sun Erlang asked tentatively. Looking at Chen Tianai's expression, Sun Erlang calculated slightly in his heart, and his face suddenly turned pale. He decisively refused. That's it. For ordinary people, this is a task that cannot be completed even if they spend their entire lives. But for the disciples of the Tian sect who possess the transformation Tao Stonia it's just a blink of an eye. Chen Tianai pointed lightly, and the white papers scattered all over the sky flew wildly. One by one, arranged in order. In the end, all the white papers returned to their places. After a dazzling light, the treasure box was opened. A jade slip, a blue crystal stone. The appearance of the transformation Tao stone in the treasure box seemed to resonate with the transformation Tao Stone Mother. Under the illumination of the Stone Mother's light, the color of the transformation Tao stone became more profound. Chen Tianai first put away the jade slip, then stroked the blue gemstone. His expression was a little sighing, then he looked at Sun Erlang and said, "Little gentleman, this transformation Tao stone is for you." It was not until the transformation Tao stone fell into his hands that Sun Erlang came back to his senses. 1206. A dream transforms 1,000 years. Sun Erlang really didn't expect that this elder Chen from the Tian sect, after setting up the power of the transformation Tao stone so much, would actually give him this transformation Tao stone that had been lost from Yi Xing's tomb for thousands of years. Thank you, senior. However, Sun Erlang wasn't stupid. Fearing that the other party would go back on their word, he immediately accepted the treasure. He happily held it in his hand and observed it for a long time. The expression on Sun Erlang's face gradually changed from surprise to embarrassment. Senior, this transformation Tao Stonia. Why does it seem useless? Chen Tianai said, to experience the mysteries of the transformation Tao stone, you need to pair it with my sect's transformation Tao Divine Unity secret technique. Sun Erlang immediately became alert and said, Senior, I already have a master. I cannot join your Tian secta. Chen Tianai smiled and said, Little Langjun, you are overthinking it. I've already given you the transformation Tao stone, why would I care about this secret technique? With a point of his finger in the air, Sun Erlang, who was enveloped in illusory blue light, suddenly felt that his mind had gained information about transformation Tao Divine Unity. Slowly circulating the secret technique, the blue gemstone in Sun Erlang's hand, like bursts of flowing light, was absorbed into his body. And in his sea of consciousness, a brilliant crystal of the same shape was slowly forming. Sun Erlang suddenly felt that the world had become brighter. In an instant, countless thoughts flashed through his mind. Thoughts surged like a storm. Memories from his childhood, some even forgotten, all began to reappear. And thinking about the doubts in his heart before, why this elder Chen from the Tian sect would treat him so differently. Sun Erlang, who had only vague guesses about this before, now deduced several possibilities in his mind. The Holy Dynasty's great revelation and the Master's goodwill, his special physique being beneficial to the Tian sect. And the Tian sect being able to achieve some means of control through the transformation Tao stone, this being a link in a conspiracy. Many possibilities were listed in order. At the same time, the inferences were constantly adjusted based on the information obtained from the outside world. This is transformation Tao divine unity. After a long time, Sun Erlang recovered from the shock and couldn't help but sigh. He couldn't help but look at the transformation Tao Stone Mother in front of him. Just a small fragment had such a powerful derivative calculation ability. Then, to what extent was this transformation Tao Stone Mother powerful? Senior gave me the transformation Tao Stone. Is it related to that simulation you just asked me about? Staring at the transformation Tao Stone Mother, Sun Erlang suddenly had a flash of inspiration and asked. Chen Tianai nodded somewhat inexplicably. In addition to the future of the Xuanwang world, there are many other fictional worlds in the transformation Tao Stone Mother. It is both to make full use of the Stone Mother's abilities and to better correct the established reality. You can think of them as some kind of rehearsal. Sun Erlang nodded thoughtfully. The moment he completely absorbed the transformation Tao Stone, images of when he returned and reported this matter to his master, and the events that followed, flashed in his mind. Compared to just a simple thought in the past, this time even the various expressions and reactions of the people he would come into contact with in the future all appeared in an instant. This is the simulated future. But my derivative calculation ability is not enough, I can only deduce the parts that are strongly related to me. And the transformation Tao Stone Mother, in addition to deducing the Xuanwang world, even has the energy to simulate more. While Sun Erlang pondered, Chen Tianai continued, these fictional worlds are mostly created with the native materials of the Xuanwang world as the foundation. So you may encounter many beings that seem familiar. But rest assured, it is real enough there. It can allow you to truly experience a complete life. Little Langjun, have you ever heard such a saying? To govern the world, the talents of a county are enough. Although this principle is spread among mortals, it is also applicable to our world of cultivation. The core of the Xuantian sect, which once dominated the world, was only the 12 cultivators who were close to the Xuantian king. Xuantian sect. Sun Erlang heard this term for the first time and couldn't help but be curious. Unfortunately, Chen Tianai didn't mean to say more, but continued his reasoning, there is no shortage of talent in this world. What is lacking is only the space and opportunity for them to grow. And in the world simulated by the transformation Tao Stone, we have built such a stage. It can allow characters like little Langjun to grow rapidly. After all, he was still young. Sun Erlang couldn't help but feel a little proud when he heard Chen Tianai's praise. But then he frowned and asked, how long does this simulation last? Will it make my master wait too long? A dream of 1,000 years, 1,000 years in an instant. Little Langjun, are you ready? Chen Tianai suddenly shouted loudly. At the same time, a blue halo bloomed on the transformation Tao Stone Mother. In the halo, countless scenes of different worlds could be vaguely seen. A figure wrapped in blue light also flew out from Sun Erlang's sea of consciousness and went straight into the Stone Mother's halo. When he saw where Sun Erlang finally landed, a trace of strangeness appeared on Chen Tianai's face. Ancient Xuanwang, a world where the immortal tribulation did not happen. Interesting. Chen Tianai's words just now were not entirely complete. That's right, to govern the world, the talents of a county are indeed enough. But that's just enough. Although there are many talents in the world, there are always some who are different. They may be temporarily buried for some reason, but as long as there is an opportunity, they can take advantage of the situation and their fate will be turned upside down. The transformation Tao Stone Mother has simulated and iterated countless worlds. Whenever such people appear, they can drastically affect and change the fate of the world. Countless futures, with countless branches. The existence or disappearance of certain creatures will not have any impact on these possible branches. They are all insignificant people, ordinary members of the masses. But some characters, because of their disappearance, will lead to major changes in the future, and even directly cause a large number of possibilities to disappear. Such people are focus variables. The transformation Tao Stone Mother has statistically analyzed the many focus variables that have appeared in the simulated world, and summarized a set of effective prediction methods. This Sun Erlang meets certain characteristics of belonging to a focus variable. Chen Tianai's thoughts surged, which was also the reason why he was very kind to Sun Erlang. Since the Tian sect has been discovered, it will inevitably be involved in the world, and be involved in the variables of the future. Naturally, preparations need to be made early. His eyes narrowed, as if to see everything that happened in Sun Erlang's world. Just as I expected, 3 years of dormancy, a rise in one dynasty, its momentum is established, no one can stop it. Fortunately, judging from his actions, order and rationality still exist. Not an extreme variable. Give Sun Erlang a chance to simulate, and also give the Tian sect a chance to see Sun Erlang's character clearly. There will be another chapter around 12:30. 12:07. A thought overturns the world. Chen Tianai felt slightly relieved. To be able to teach such a disciple, it seems that the actions of that mysterious holy emperor will not be too unpredictable. A extreme variable is a special type of a focus variable. Once it appears, it will cause a subversive impact on the existing world. In an instant, it can completely overturn the future world deduced by the transformation Tao Stone Mother. The celestial worthy of numinous treasure back then belonged to the extreme variable. Chen Tianai's memory seemed to return to the beginning. Tian sect main hall. I have already replied to the great Tao sect. A mere He Tao cultivator is not to be feared, said Xingji Taoist in a deep voice, the previous sect master of Tian sect, also Chen Tianai's master. Chen Tianai's expression was somewhat anxious. How can you draw a conclusion so hastily? I feel that celestial worthy of numinous treasure is somewhat strangely unclear. Why not observe further? Xingji Taoist was somewhat displeased. The transformation Tao Stone Mother has already performed calculations hundreds of millions of times. What problems could there be? Could it be that so many Changsheng realm cultivators joining forces still can't take him down? Chen Tianai was momentarily speechless. Between each major realm of cultivators, the strength is as different as heaven and earth, and the higher the realm, the more obvious this gap becomes. The Golden Core realm might be able to kill the nascent Soul realm, but the He Tao realm wants to kill the Changsheng realm. This has rarely happened in the Xuanwang world since ancient times. Moreover, this time the action to capture celestial worthy of numinous treasure was personally led by Fang Dinggei, the sect master of the Great Tao sect. It is said that at that time, a full 6 Changsheng realm experts would take action together. Sect Master Fang is extremely cautious in his actions. Even if the gap between the enemy and us is so large, he did not underestimate the enemy. Not only was it strictly kept secret, but only the sect masters of each sect and a few direct disciples within the Immortal Tao 10 sects knew about this matter. He even sent a message to Tian sect, wanting to use the transformation Tao Stone Mother to deduce the possible variables that might occur in this action. Such caution made it difficult for Xingji Taoist to understand. However, after all, he was the leader of the Great Tao sect, and it was not good not to give him face. Xingji Taoist still used the transformation Tao Stone Mother to thoroughly deduce various possibilities. The results of hundreds of millions of deductions all ended with celestial worthy of numinous treasure being successfully captured alive. Theoretically speaking, the Immortal Sect 10 sects had almost no possibility of failure in this operation. But for some reason, Chen Tianai still had a strong sense of unease in his heart that he couldn't shake off. He had once disguised his identity and secretly approached to observe that celestial worthy of numinous treasure. Before the Myriad Immortals Alliance had attracted the attention of the Immortal Tao 10 sects. Celestial worthy of numinous treasure himself seemed to be a kind and benevolent old man. In order to open up another unique path for those who could not cultivate in the world. But after witnessing the fanaticism in the eyes of those new Dharma cultivators surrounding celestial worthy of numinous treasure, Chen Tianai felt a chill in his heart. What made him even more palpitations was that celestial worthy of numinous treasure seemed to have noticed his secret spying at the time, and glanced slightly in the direction he was in. A simple and calm look, but like a nightmare, often appeared in Chen Tianai's mind from time to time. It was not until a long time passed that the negative emotions caused by that glance to Chen Tianai slowly dissipated. But this suddenly learned plan reawakened the nightmare. As the first direct disciple of Tian sect, Chen Tianai had already stepped into the He Tao realm with half a foot at a young age. He did not believe that ordinary He Tao cultivators could have such a terrifying impact on him. Out of his own shame, Chen Tianai did not explicitly tell his master about the strangeness that happened to him. However, he repeatedly emphasized the extraordinary nature of celestial worthy of numinous treasure in front of his master. But in the end, he failed to change his master's attitude. When leaving his master's place, the unease in Chen Tianai's heart became even more intense. He suddenly had the idea of restarting the transformation Tao Stone Mother to perform another deduction. Chen Tianai was frightened by his own thought. The transformation Tao Stone Mother is the treasure of Tian sect, the foundation of the sect. It is related to the path of all Tian sect cultivators now and even in the future. Only the sect master of Tian sect is qualified to use it. Even if he, Chen Tianai, is the first direct disciple, he can only watch from a distance and cannot approach without authorization. Once the thought arises, it is difficult to calm down. It even made Chen Tianai a little absent-minded. Fortunately, he finally waited for an opportunity. A Wooding Prisana, one of the 10 sects, seemed to have some trouble. Sent a request for help to the other immortal sects. The Supreme, Heavenly Sword, and Beast-Taming sects were unable to spare time because they were planning to encircle and suppress Celestial worthy of numinous treasure. So this matter was handed over to Xingji Taoist to deal with. From the expression on Xingji's face before leaving, it was known that the accident that happened in Wooding Prison must be not small. Entrusting the sect affairs to Chen Tianai and the elders. This gave Chen Tianai a chance. After a fierce ideological struggle, Chen Tianai ultimately failed to suppress the restlessness in his heart. He came to the transformation Tao Stone Mother without anyone knowing. All previous deduction records will be retained. Chen Tianai retrieved the last deduction result. Sure enough, it was the same as what his master said, and even his master had reservations. He had deduced it a full 1 billion times, and the results were completely consistent. But for some reason, Chen Tianai, who had personally seen the deduction results, was still a little unwilling. He once again urged the transformation Tao Stone Mother. Azure blue light continued to flash, and endless possibilities continued to be staged. A groan interrupted Chen Tianai's thoughts. The connection with the transformation Tao Stone Mother was broken, and Sun Erlang had returned to reality from the simulation. His eyes were tightly closed, seemingly still adapting. The aura on his body was also undergoing drastic changes at a speed visible to the naked eye. As if from a sharp-edged young man, he instantly turned into a calm and experienced master who had experienced hundreds of tribulations. Thank you, Senior, for your accomplishment. After a long time, Sun Erlang opened his eyes. His eyes were peaceful and deep. What did the little Langjun experience? Chen Tianai asked knowingly. During the ancient period of the 10 great immortal sects, before the catastrophe came. I was originally a villager, and by chance, I saw 2 golden core cultivators fighting and dying together. I mustered up the courage to collect the resources from their corpses. It took 3 years to finally open the storage rings left by the 2 golden cores. Since then, I officially started the path of cultivation, Sun Erlang said lightly. Chen Tianai knew that although Sun Erlang glossed over it in one sentence, in that simulated world, the process of opening the 2 storage rings alone was very thrilling. Old friends of the 2 golden cores came one after another to find the whereabouts of the inheritance. Having a treasure mountain in vain, but unable to enter. He gambled everything, scattered all his wealth, and finally sought a cultivation method that was no longer crude. Stumbling and stumbling, he finally entered the Qi refining realm and was able to use the resources in the storage ring. Sun Erlang narrated his experiences in the simulated world, eventually ending with reaching the peak of Hedao and having no hope of breaking through. Although Chen Tianai had already seen the other party's experience, he still listened with relish. If it weren't for my mistake back then, perhaps the Xuanwang world would still be like this now. Chen Tianai thought to himself. 1208. The sinner of the Xuanwang realm. In a sense, Chen Tianai bears a large part of the responsibility for the Xuanwang realm's current state. It was he who, without authorization, activated the Stone Mother of Transformation and conducted over 100 billion deductions. Only then did Xuanfa glimpse the only possibility of victory. The fall of the 10 great immortal sects and the 6 Chengsheng cultivators made Chen Tianai an utter sinner. The Stone Mother of Transformation's numerous deductions naturally couldn't be concealed. When his master, Xingji Daoren, returned and discovered the terrible consequences, highly likely caused by Chen Tianai's inside job, he was utterly enraged. He wanted to execute Chen Tianai on the spot to appease the world. However, after careful consideration, Xingji Daoren didn't act. Firstly, due to the deep bond between master and disciple, akin to father and son, Xingji Daoren ultimately softened. Secondly, if this news were to spread, it would inevitably make the Taiyan sect the target of public criticism and might even lead to its removal from the Xuanwang realm. After all, traitors are always more hateful than enemies. But the tragic deaths of his former friends and the extreme condemnation in his heart made it impossible for Xingji Daoren to pretend that nothing had happened. Therefore, he could only strip Chen Tianai of his status as the first direct disciple, throw him into the Taiyan sect's prison, and suppress him for eternity. To the outside world, he declared that Chen Tianai had defected. Chen Tianai didn't know how long he had been in the dark prison. By the time he was released, the calamity had already descended, and the Tian sect was facing a crisis of life and death. With the world in chaos, the once renowned 10 great immortal sects were struggling to take care of themselves. Because the Tian sect's disciples could use the stone of transformation to continuously perform complex deductions to suppress the murderous intent brought about by the incompatibility of cultivation methods, they hadn't fallen into extreme chaos like the other immortal sects. However, they had already reached their limit. Not only the stones of transformation within each cultivator's body, but even the stone mother of transformation, due to the sudden appearance of an extreme variable, overturned everything from the past and began rapidly rededucing, squeezing its computational power almost dry to seek a glimmer of hope for the Tian sect. Before his energy was exhausted, his master, Xingji Daoren, released Chen Tianai and pointed out a path for him. Abandon the body, but keep the information imperishable. Misfortune and fortune are intertwined. Although you made a big mistake back then, you also calculated Xuanfa's details because of it. Now Xuanfa has been attracted by our last resort and has temporarily left the Xuanlong realm. It has also preserved our strength and won us a chance to breathe. Otherwise, I am afraid that our immortal sect's inheritance will be destroyed. Before he could completely deliver his last words, Xingji Daoren had already fallen. And before the calamity of incompatible cultivation methods completely enveloped the Tian sect, Chen Tianai finally completed the act of integrating the entire Tian sect into the stone mother of transformation. Fortunately, his master had eliminated all opposing forces within the sect before his death. Otherwise, Chen Tianai wouldn't have been able to persevere until that moment. When everyone in the sect could experience and call upon the almost infinite computing power of the stone mother of transformation, Chen Tianai knew that his master's decision was correct. And after reintegrating the divided stones of transformation into the body, and mixing in the thoughts of thousands of cultivators from the Tian sect, the stone mother of transformation itself underwent some mysterious and unparalleled changes. It gave birth to its own intelligence. A collective consciousness that belonged to the Tian sect. During the thousands of years of seclusion in the Taishuan realm, Chen Tianai reviewed the past and re-examined what he had done back then. At that time, he was often restless and had suspected that he had been tricked by Xuanfa. However, neither the sect's forbidden treasures, nor his master, nor even the Chengsheng powerhouses of other sects such as the Supreme and Heavenly Sword sects, could find anything wrong with him. Chen Tianai could only assume that it was simply his own inner demons at work. Xuanfa's methods are truly treacherous and difficult to guard against. It's just a pity that my master didn't say what his details were before he ascended to immortality. And the other insiders of the immortal sect have long since disappeared. However, after so many years, I have also deduced a rough idea. Chen Tianai listened to Sun Erlang's account of his simulated experiences while his thoughts churned. By the way, senior, those cultivation techniques I learned in the simulated world are naturally real, Chen Tianai said indifferently. But you'd better not learn and use them in reality. Otherwise, you might attract the pursuit of the Law Enforcement Hall of the Myriad Immortals Alliance, Chen Tianai added. The Law Enforcement Hall of the Myriad Immortals Alliance. Sun Erlang whispered, but there was no fear in his eyes. All right, since little Langjun has gained so much, please go back. Don't let your master wait too long, Chen Tianai issued the order to leave. Yi Shu will go with you to the Daki small world. Before the words were finished, Sun Erlang felt a blur in front of his eyes. When he came back to his senses, he was already outside the blue transparent building. Yi Shu stood aside with a smile, seemingly waiting for a long time. Sun Erlang immediately noticed that Yi Shu was different from before. Even different from all the other cultivators in this Tian sect. No longer the cold, completely unified common aura, but a living, breathing life force of its own. Thanks to little Langjun, I have temporarily regained a real body and can go out and have fun for a while, Yi Shu said with a smile, explaining the current situation of the Tian sect to Sun Erlang. Information does not perish. After hundreds of years of experience in the simulated world, Sun Erlang was obviously much calmer. But he was still shocked by the Tian sect's fantastical ideas. Little Langjun doesn't need to be surprised. If you really experienced it yourself like us, you would know that there is not much difference between having a physical body and not having one. Even a real body is a burden. But occasionally adjusting it is not bad, Yi Shu said with a smile. Yi Shu followed Sun Erlang out of the Taishuan realm and went straight to the entrance of the Kongyun Sea in the Daki small world. Obviously, the Tian sect was no stranger to the location of the Daki small world. However, when they passed through the immortal extinction great array and saw only a vast void with no small world existing, Yishu finally showed a hint of surprise. Sun Erlang was stunned at first, and then it seemed that the memory of 100 years ago finally revived. He said a little awkwardly, "Senior, please wait a moment. My holy dynasty Daki is now wandering in the void, drifting unregistered. I don't know where it is now. Wait for me to ask." After a while, a golden light suddenly came from the darkness and arrived in front of the two in an instant. "Greetings, Senior Baihua." Sun Erlang saw the person coming and respectfully saluted. Baihua Daoran glanced at Yishu and didn't say much. "Come with me." The glazed golden light enveloped the two, and the surrounding void emitted a strange brilliance as if it were distorted. When the golden light dissipated, they had returned to the holy dynasty Daki. There is another chapter in 10 minutes. 1209. The man who saves the misfortunes of the Xuanwang realm. Senior Baihua, it seems your cultivation has advanced quite a bit. After 100 years of simulated experience, Sun Erlang was no longer the same as before. He naturally saw the changes that had occurred in Taoist Baihua during the time he had been away. He couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. As for Yishu, he was looking with great interest at the 5 interconnected rings in the sky, which echoed each other, and the 6 bright stars surrounding the rings. Senior Baihua has moved 2 more grotto heavens. That's truly hard work. These 2 new grotto heavens seem to be even larger than the previous ones. No wonder I felt Daki's speed through the void had increased significantly again, Sun Erlang thought to himself. Holy Dynasty Daki truly lives up to its reputation, Yishu said sincerely, sensing the various forces of the small world constantly enveloping him. I think, in no more than 50 years, such earth-shattering changes could occur in a mere mortal world. I'm genuinely curious about your master, young sir. Taoist Baihua inexplicably glanced at Yishu again. But she didn't speak, merely let out a cold snort. After bringing the 2 before the Holy Emperor's throne, she left directly. Looking at the mountain-like, majestic figure seated above, Sun Erlang's heart trembled. He had originally thought that after experiencing so many seemingly real worlds in the simulated realm, and having met those former peak cultivators of the 10 immortal sects in the longevity realm, he would be a bit more at ease when facing his master upon his return. But at this moment, Sun Erlang knew he was wrong. When facing longevity realm experts, what Sun Erlang felt was the pressure from the disparity in realms, the might of the strong over the weak. But when facing his own master, the faceless Holy Emperor of Daki, the reason Sun Erlang's body, mind, and even soul couldn't stop trembling was due to the mysterious and unfathomable nature of the faceless Holy Emperor, and as if a natural condescension of higher life forms towards lower life forms. Master, I have returned. Sun Erlang knelt on one knee, just as before. Yishu, on the other hand, slightly cupped his hands in greeting. It's good you're back. It seems you gained quite a lot from this trip. The voice of the faceless Holy Emperor, Li Ping, echoed within the empty, grand Holy Emperor's throne. Sun Erlang recounted his experiences in detail, omitting nothing. After listening to Sun Erlang's report, Li Ping finally spoke to Yishu. Since the Tian sect is so courteous, we cannot be negligent either. For this period, you shall guide him around the holy dynasty. There are no restrictions. Any place this esteemed guest wishes to see, you can take him to. Sun Erlang was slightly startled, then quickly said, "This disciple understands. You may go." There was actually no intention of communicating with Yishu. Although Yishu was the embodiment of the Tian sect's collective consciousness, he also had a temper belonging to his own ego. He tilted his head slightly, looked at the faceless Holy Emperor seated high above, and cupped his hands in greeting again. Until he left the Holy Emperor's throne, the Holy Emperor did not say another word. 1,000 words are not as good as one look. Senior, after you've taken a tour, you will have your answer in your heart, Sun Erlang quickly explained to prevent the other party from feeling awkward. All right, then let me see what's so special about this place, Yishu also responded with a chuckle. However, his smile seemed slightly different from before. When he saw that almost everyone in the Holy Dynasty Daki was cultivating the same cultivation method, a hint of surprise flashed in Yishu's eyes. When he saw the immortal spirit towers placed casually throughout the Holy Dynasty, constantly releasing spiritual energy outwards, the smile on Yishu's face gradually disappeared. After observing the heaven and earth myriad spirits grand array connecting the Holy Dynasty Daki with other small worlds, Yishu's expression had become one of shock and uncertainty. Young sir, do you know? Yishu's words reached his lips, but he swallowed them back. Sun Erlang thought the other party was simply shocked by the sights of the holy dynasty. Seeing that the words ultimately weren't spoken, he didn't press the matter. Next, Sun Erlang took Yishu to visit some important locations within the holy dynasty. For example, Wang Xuanba's exotic beast breeding base, and the site where Sky Patrol arrows were being forged. As they walked along, Yishu became increasingly silent. Intense confusion and doubt also flickered in his eyes from time to time. Seeing the other party's expression, Sun Erlang, who had previously been constantly shocked within the Tian sect, couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction and smugness. "Senior Yi, is there anything else you'd like to see?" Yishu didn't respond for a moment. His gaze swept towards the distance, seemingly wanting to take in this entire miraculous small world. "If you hadn't said you were going to counterattack the Xuanyang realm, I would almost think this was some hidden secret realm of the Wangxian alliance," Yishu suddenly said after a long while. "Aside from the number of cultivators and top experts being fewer, you are indeed qualified to challenge the Wangxian alliance. However, based on what I've seen so far, it's still not enough to form an alliance with our Tian sect," Yishu concluded. "Young sir, the waters of the Wangxian alliance are far deeper than they appear," Yishu said meaningfully. Sun Erlang wasn't dissatisfied with Yishu's reaction. Instead, he nodded slightly, looking thoughtful. After thinking for a moment, Sun Erlang finally took Yishu to the space beneath the Holy Emperor's throne where Yin Shangren resided. He didn't see Yin Shangren herself. But just seeing the hundreds of children cultivating there, who had already formed their foundations at a young age, Yishu showed signs of losing his composure for the first time. With his eyesight, he naturally saw the special qualities of these foundation establishment children instantly. How is this possible? At this moment, the Tian sect, far away in the Taishuan realm, had everyone from top to bottom cast their gazes towards the Daki small world. Even the mother stone of Tao transformation, which constantly emitted a brilliant blue light, seemed to pause briefly. Not long ago, a young man, building upon the foundation of foundation establishment with myself, went a step further. He forged a primal chaos golden core, Sun Erlang said softly. Foundation establishment with myself. After hearing this term, Yishu instantly froze. It wasn't an adjective, but his thoughts had genuinely come to a standstill. Sun Erlang, who possessed the Mother Stone of Tao Transformation, also saw at a glance that this was a sign of the Mother Stone of Tao Transformation's computing power running at its limit. Impossible. After a long while, Yishu blurted out. Here, the children who were meditating intensely and diligently cultivating all looked towards Yishu. There was some displeasure in their eyes. Because they were taught by Yin Shangren from a young age, what they most resisted were the three words, impossible. Yishu realized his loss of composure and lightly coughed to cover it up. He slowly walked up to a little girl who looked like a carved jade figurine and observed carefully. The more he looked, the more surprised he became. Sun Erlang saw that Yishu's hands were even clenching tightly uncontrollably. Beyond the variable, beyond the variable. No, this isn't beyond the variable, this is. Yishu suddenly raised his head, seemingly meeting the gaze of the faceless Holy Emperor seated in the Holy Emperor's throne. Xuanyang Tribulation Traverser. 1210. No one can save the sky from falling. Many years ago, when Ishu first learned about the theories of the Ferrying Calamity sect, he, like most cultivators of the Grand Evolution sect, absolutely sneered at them. When a calamity arrives, instead of actively seeking ways to deal with it, they choose to be ostriches, pinning their hopes on some illusory person destined to face the calamity. This is completely unfounded and an unpredictable variable. However, as one of the 10 immortal sects, and having the heavenly capital Grand Dharma Master as their teacher, the inheritance of the Ferrying Calamity sect had already appeared in ancient times. Being able to exist for so many years indicates that it does indeed have its own special reasons. It's just that outsiders cannot glimpse the mysteries of the Ferrying Calamity sect. Today, when Ishu arrived at this great Qi holy dynasty, which seemed to have suddenly sprung out of the cracks in the rocks, and saw the many technologies that could rival the top-tier level of the Myriad Immortals Alliance, as well as the new law that was completely different from the current cultivation methods and could completely subvert the foundation of the Dharma transmission Heavenly Lord in the Xuanwang realm. A thought from the Ferrying Calamity sect flashed into Ishu's mind. At that time, the Great Calamity was just beginning to show signs. The core members of the 10 immortal sects gathered together to discuss possible countermeasures. Each sect expressed its own views, but the Ferrying Calamity sect's attitude was very passive. Everyone, the so-called calamity is inevitable. If it can be avoided through some struggle, then what kind of calamity is it? Lu Chenggang, the sect master of the ferrying calamity sect, looked at his nose with his eyes and his heart with his nose, as if it was none of his business. Is this the reason why you, the ferrying calamity sect, place those so-called eyes of the Avalokiteyavara everywhere? Shaho Yan, the lord of the immovable hell, who had the most violent temper, looked displeased and retorted on the spot. Shaho, you don't understand. This is a necessary means to wait for the appearance of the Xuanwang calamity ferrying person, Lu Chenggang said indifferently. Bullshit Xuanwang calamity ferrying person, in the face of calamity, all living beings will perish. If people are all dead, where will this savior come from? Shaho almost burst into a curse. Are you questioning the Grand Dharma Master's inheritance? Lu Chenggang's one sentence silenced Shaho Yan. Isn't there still you? Lu Chenggang smiled, and then said meaningfully, the Xuanwang realm is not so easily destroyed. If there is any immortal cultivation realm in this star sea that can survive to the end, then it must be our Xuanwang. Upon hearing this, the leaders of the 10 sects did not refute. After a brief silence, perhaps to appease the crowd, Lu Chenggang briefly explained, the saying of ferrying calamity is not nonsense. Calamities, birth, and destruction are all part of the cycle of heaven and earth. Even the immortal realm calamity may not be beyond the expectations of the true immortals. You are all panicking all day long, but look at how the Grand Dharma Master is. Does he have a trace of emotion? Xuanji, the leader of the Supreme Sect, who had been silent all along, finally spoke at this moment. The Grand Dharma Master's cultivation has reached perfection, and he can walk on flat ground even in the immortal ruins. He doesn't care about the disasters that lead to the destruction of the Xuanwang realm. We can't. Brother Lu, we won't stop you from choosing to seclude yourselves. But when dealing with the calamity, you can't completely refuse to contribute. Seeing the gazes of everyone present, Lu Chenggang finally nodded and made a compromise. However, Lu Chenggang's last sentence silenced everyone present again. One day, you will know that our ferrying calamity sect is right. At this moment, spanning thousands of years, the collective consciousness of the Grand Evolution sect, I Shu's body, suddenly recalled Lu Chenggang's words back then. After a superficial understanding of the principle of building foundation with myself, the Stone Mother of Transformation brought this variable into the deduction of the future of the Xuanwang realm. The originally clear future was like encountering a chaotic storm, becoming blurred and unclear. Even with the Stone Mother's current godlike calculation power, she became somewhat confused for a time. The Grand Evolution sect had actually tried to deduce the new law that could subvert the Dharma transmission system. But, creating something out of nothing is not the same as deducing the future based on existing data. The Stone Mother of Transformation only judged that there was indeed such a possibility. However, the probability was too small. It was even smaller than the probability that the Dharma transmission would survive the siege of the longevity realm back then. In addition to the difficulty of creating the new law itself, what was more important was the ubiquitous influence of the Dharma transmission on the Xuanwang realm. Just like how cultivators gradually forget the disasters of the Xuanwang realm and infinitely ignore the terrain changes that have been happening in the Xuanwang realm for thousands of years. Deducing the new law is not only the ultimate embodiment of one's own creativity. It is also a contest of strength with the influence of the Dharma transmission. Therefore, in the deduction of the Stone Mother of Transformation, who is very clear about the current strength of the Dharma transmission Heavenly Lord, the probability of the new law being born is naturally infinitely close to zero. However, something far beyond the possibility of deduction happened to happen. In a corner of the Xuanwang realm wandering in the void, which no one yet knows, in a force that has only recently been born. The new law has not only quietly appeared, but has even developed to the golden core stage. It was truly like a stone shattering the sky, causing the Stone Mother of Transformation's deduction to have a slight stutter. Because according to all the known factors, the reason why the new law could be born at this point in time cannot be found. The only explanation is the Xuanwang calamity ferrying person, who is outside of common sense and not in the variables. The 10 sects have also had some discussions about the Xuanwang calamity ferrying person in private. They came to a nearly unified conclusion. If there really is this so-called calamity ferrying person, they either come from outside the Xuanwang realm or are the reincarnation of a strong person. Relying on one's own strength to grow up as a native cultivator, wanting to turn the tide. It's simply impossible. No matter how talented they are, it won't work. The environment of the Xuanwang realm can no longer create the foundation soil that can fight against the Dharma transmission Heavenly Lord. What is the origin of this faceless holy emperor of Great Qi? At this moment, I Shu, or rather the Grand Evolution sect, has completely lost its contempt. Instead, they regard the Great Qi holy dynasty as a force of equal, or even higher, status than themselves. And they are really deducing the possibility of forming an alliance with the Great Qi holy dynasty. As one of the former rulers of the Xuanwang realm, now compressed by the myriad immortals alliance of the Dharma transmission Heavenly Lord to only be in the grand mystery small world, it is impossible for the Grand Evolution sect not to have a trace of resentment. Even if they no longer need territory or resources, the resentment of having what they once possessed taken away still lingers in the Grand Evolution sect's consciousness like a nightmare. In the past, the Great Tao sect, the Supreme sect, and other sects, although superficially resisted the myriad immortals alliance, they had already colluded with them and were no different from the Dharma transmission's lackeys. But I believe that like us, they have not completely surrendered. What they lack is an opportunity. And the appearance of the Great Qi holy dynasty, especially the appearance of the new law, allowed the Grand Evolution sect to see this glimmer of hope. However, after all, they are a sect that has survived the ancient calamity. They are very cautious about making any decisions that concern their fate. There is still a chapter to come at 12:30. 12:11. The future of the Tao. Yi Shu gradually recovered from his shock, but still chose not to make a statement. However, his specific actions had already changed. Originally, he had planned to return after observing for a while. But now, he requested Sun Erlang for a long-term stay to observe. Sun Erlang was a little embarrassed. I can't make the decision on this matter without authorization. I need to ask my master for instructions. Yi Shu nodded. I think your master will agree. Sure enough, the faceless Saint Emperor agreed to the Taiyan sect's request to stay. However, there was a condition. Used simulation to help the cultivators in the Great Qi dynasty of the Holy Dynasty grow quickly. Yi Shu hesitated for a moment. Master said that even if the Taiyan sect doesn't help with this, he has other methods. It's just a little more troublesome. The core of the Taiyan sect is still the deduction of the future of Xuanwang. Before the final outcome is determined, Master also agrees that your Taiyan sect should maintain a certain neutrality. Just consider it a kind of transaction. Sun Erlang repeated Li Ping's original words. Yi Shu was silent for a moment. After discussions between the Taiyan sect and the Hua Dao Stone Mother, they finally agreed. For the Taiyan sect, a few more simulations were just a waste of idle computing power. But it could add another path in the future. It was a good deal no matter how you looked at it. Just like when the disaster was coming, some of the cultivators in the sect chose to escape. The Immortal Dao 10 sects never put all their eggs in one basket. From then on, the Great Qi dynasty of the Holy Dynasty had another observer. Except for the Holy Emperor's residence, the place where the Yu clan people were, and the fishing pond of the Xuanwang realm, Yi Shu could observe freely without restrictions. Li Ping wasn't worried about this. With the Holy Dynasty's fortune and the increasingly perfect great array of all spirits in heaven and earth, Yi Shu's every move was under his control. Even the life and death of Yi Shu's body was within his control. In the distant Xuanwang realm, someone had already set his sights on the Taiyan sect. Although I have no intention of actively harming others, I have to leave a means. The Taiyan sect has abandoned its physical existence and collectively exists within the Hua Dao Stone Mother. The immortality of information is indeed remarkable. Even when the immortals of the immortal ruins destroy the world with a glance, they can escape from that terrifying disaster. Buddha. As the saying goes, specialization in one's field. Within the Yanfa Ju space, Li Fan appeared to be meditating with his eyes closed. In fact, thoughts were constantly surging in his mind. Information immortality means physical means and even ordinary immortal techniques are useless. But data pollution might have a miraculous effect. As far as Li Fan knew, there was no such method in the Tao traditions currently circulating in the Xuanwang realm. His idea originated from the mysterious Zanyuan beginning spirit great array. The composite of 9 immortal level great arrays, its power is unimaginable. It can even re-establish earth, fire, water, and wind in the void and create a new world. Fortunately, he had the terminus disintegration disk, and through various coincidences, Li Fan had initially mastered 3 of them. Xuanji, the return of all spirits to numbers, Wangluo, the generation of flowers in an empty room, Wuliang, the squareness seen in Hongmeng. Among them, the Xuanji and the return of all spirits to numbers arrays have the mysterious effect of turning everything covered by the array into data and transforming it at will. Although it's just theory, and the lack of materials makes it impossible to complete the array, the good thing is that the Tian sect doesn't have a physical body either. Pure information is easier to expose flaws. Hongmeng sees squareness, the return of all spirits to numbers, if the two arrays cooperate with each other. In his sea of consciousness, under the computing power of the Wadao stone, the terminus disintegration disk was rapidly deducing a new form of array. In the past 6 months, Li Fan's divided soul had roughly completed the analysis of the Hongmeng sees squareness array in the Wuliang mirror. After the divided soul's repairs, the power of the damaged Wuliang mirror had greatly improved. The corresponding price was that the divided soul had weakened again. But Li Fan wasn't worried. Sun Luyuan had been slow to complete the task assigned by the mirror holder, Fu, and even his deliberate perfunctoriness had been seen by the other party. The pressure he was under was increasing, and it might not be long before he had to succumb and use the Wuliang mirror again to try to peek into the Tianquan mirror. After sensing what his clone Li Ping had seen and heard, Li Fan was now thinking about something else. He was thinking about the origin of the Wadao Stone Mother. When the Tian sect first obtained the inheritance of the heavenly capital Great Mage, they shouldn't have had the Wadao Stone Mother. Only later, they somehow found such a treasure and directly transformed the Tian sect's techniques from being only suitable for a few people to being cultivatable by everyone. This completely solidified the Tian sect's position among the 10 sects. There are many treasures in the Xuanwang realm that can deduce. For example, the Wuliang mirror, although damaged, can still predict some events that will happen in the future. But the divinity of the Wuliang mirror and even the Tianquan mirror is more like the result of refining immortal level power. They are tools. And the Wadao Stone Mother is more like a pure thing. A legendary natural treasury. Although the Xuanwang realm is vast, it doesn't seem like it can naturally give birth to such a divine object. Li Fan suddenly remembered an anecdote he had heard from the people of the Due sect before. An alien star fell into Xuanwang, causing all the spiritual power of the Xuanwang realm to fail. Could it be that this Wadao Stone Mother also came from outside the starry sky? Li Fan couldn't help but guess. But it was just a guess. Unless he could one day invade the Wadao stone, he could truly know the answer. The Stone Mother deduces the future purely by relying on its powerful computing power. Even so, it has already reached a certain extreme, which shows the power of its computing. If it is supplemented by external objects to further optimize its deduction methods, I really don't know what kind of state it can reach. For example, the Wadao stone in Li Fan's Sea of Consciousness, although it has been promoted to high grade after several fusions, it is very difficult for it to independently deduce even the reversing life and death array, let alone immortal level arrays. Similarly, if he relied solely on the disintegration disk, after all, it was just a mortal object, and it would be somewhat difficult to deduce immortal level arrays. But the combination of the two was very different. Complementary and mutually beneficial. Such a harmonious scene made Li Fan couldn't help but imagine what it would be like if the Wadao Stone Mother was equipped with something like the terminus disintegration disk, or even more than just an array. The power of the Yanfa Ju, the future of the Wuliang mirror. If all of these were added to the Wadao Stone Mother's terrifying computing power, there would be a qualitative change. It could even be infinitely superimposed through each reincarnation, further pushing the already perfected Wadao Stone Mother to an unimaginable state. The terminus disintegration disk's help to Li Fan in reincarnation was self-evident. If other things were added, Li Fan couldn't help but be excited. Perhaps the way to break the game is among them. With treasures in front of us, it depends on how we plan. Li Fan's eyes flickered. 1212. The chief of the Guardian Hall. After all, the Stone Mother of Transformation was an existence that managed to escape the calamity that annihilated the Xuanwang world, so Li Fan would not underestimate her. There's no need to rush for quick results. In this life, I'll just be a completely reliable partner, gaining the trust of the Tian sect, and thereby learning more of its hidden secrets. As for myself, I'll first perfect this data pollution formation. If there's an opportunity, I'll test its effectiveness. The Yanfa Jade space provided Li Fan with enough safe time, free from outside interference. Aside from occasionally having to deal with the little lowly's strikes, other times could be said to be quite leisurely. The mutual communication between the three guardian elders also became less and less, each immersed in their own world. However, on this day, a special group of people came to the Yanfa Jade space. Without the Jinfa Jade token, they obtained special approval from the Immortal Alliance, and under the leadership of the chief elder of the Protector Hall, they arrived here. The usually lazy Hua Yui seemed to become a little nervous, repeatedly greetings, Elder Shu. Li Fan noticed that not only the other two guardians, but even the usually carefree, fearless Yanfa Jade little Loli, had restrained herself a lot. While following along to pay his respects, Li Fan looked at the white-haired old man with seemingly blind eyes in front of him, and the information about this chief of the Protector Hall flashed through his mind. Shu Yuanxian has served as the chief of the Protector Hall for more than 3,000 years. Although he appears approachable on the surface, he is actually eccentric and rigid. He adheres to the Immortal Alliance's rules to the point of being dogmatic, showing no leniency. Even when the preaching masters occasionally come, they can't break the rules. He is valued by the preaching master Zhang, and although other preaching masters dislike him, they can't do anything about him. Since he can serve as the chief of the Protector Hall, Shu Yuanxian's own strength is also unfathomable, not comparable to ordinary Dao integration cultivators. The only record of the Myriad Immortals Alliance killing a Dao integration cultivator and retrieving leaked cultivation methods was carried out by this person. It was clean and efficient, without even giving the onlookers time to react. Shu Yuanxian explained the purpose of his visit. The Immortal Alliance's grand examination has just ended not long ago, and these little ones are the best among them. The Preaching Masters Council has specially approved them to use the Yanfa Jade and deduce a Dao integration level cultivation method once. Why is it like this? The three guardians and the Yanfa little Loli were all a little surprised. The little Loli pouted, wanting to complain. However, after catching a glimpse of Shu Yuanxian's expression, she carefully swallowed the words back into her stomach. Li Fan reacted the fastest, nodding and saying, "Please show the council's seal, Chief." He looked serious, not being perfunctory just because the other party was his direct superior. Shu Yuanxian also cooperated very well, casting a seal. Feeling the aura of the preaching masters surrounding it, Li Fan carefully checked the information and explanation within, and finally nodded to indicate that the inspection was passed. Postponing the cultivators who were originally waiting for deduction, Li Fan arranged for the Yanfa Jade to first solve the tasks of these newly employed Immortal Alliance cultivators. There were a total of 16 people, with different ages and realms. The huge Yanfa light sphere kept rotating, and the little Loli worked on the deduction with a pout. While this group of people was waiting in line for the deduction of cultivation methods, Li Fan curiously asked Shu Yuanxian through voice transmission, "Chief, forgive my poor eyesight, but these cultivators don't seem to have particularly good aptitudes. Why is the Immortal Alliance treating them so favorably?" The voice transmission did not avoid the other two guardians, and they also showed curious expressions. However, they only received silence in return. Shu Yuanxian did not say a word, as if he had not heard Li Fan's voice transmission at all. The two guardians wisely withdrew their gazes. Li Fan did not continue to ask, and the ceremony fell into an eerie silence. It wasn't until these 16 people had collectively completed the deduction of the cultivation methods and were about to leave that Shu Yuanxian suddenly responded. "Actually, I also want to know the answer to this question. However, there are too many unknown things in the world, and there is no need to know everything. Just do your job well. Since the Preaching Masters Council has decided this way, there must be their reasons. We subordinates just have to obey." The three guardians all lowered their heads, expressing that they had been taught. It wasn't until Shu Yuanxian completely left the Yanfa Jade space that they dared to communicate. The chief is indeed a well-deserved rigid person. Fellow Taoist Sun reacted so quickly this time. The chief likes you doing things according to the rules just now. Maybe you'll enter the chief's eyes because of this, and when you go out in 500 years, he'll choose you to be the next chief, Hua Yui teased. Li Fan ignored the two people's teasing and first reported the special invocation of the Yanfa Jade this time, as required. Then he said lightly, "The chief of the Protector Hall is even more like being in prison than our job. I'm not interested. I still have a beloved wife at home, waiting for me to return." Half truth and half lie, causing the two guardians to laugh loudly. This matter was just a small episode experienced in the process of guarding the Yanfa Jade. Soon, the few people put this matter behind them. Of course, except for Li Fan. Bakasia. Among the 16 people just now, there was one who was a nail planted by the Holy Dynasty Daki in the Myriad Immortals Alliance. Named Yang Fei. Li Fan knew him, but he didn't know Li Fan. But it didn't affect the vigilance in Li Fan's heart. The Immortal Alliance never does meaningless things. These 16 people who just joined the Myriad Immortals Alliance and received such favorable treatment are hard not to make Li Fan suspect that there is some conspiracy behind it. It won't be like the previous Immortal Chosen being used as sacrifices to awaken the power left in the stone statues in various places by the preaching Heavenly Venerate, right? That's not right. If they are sacrifices, they are destined to die. There's no need to waste the Yanfa Jade's computing power. Li Fan keenly noticed the strangeness behind this. And in the underground secret room of the Sun family, his divided spirit finally waited for the right opportunity. Sun Luan came to the secret room again, his eyes red. With a struggling look on his face, he finally took out a Tianquan small mirror. Then, using his own essence blood, he nourished Sun Luyao in the boundless mirror while explaining, "The pressure from above is too great, forgive me, brother. Originally, I thought I could swear to never comply. But looking at the faces of the Sun family, Sun Luyao transformed into a black shadow, showing her figure, and comforted him according to Li Fan's divided spirit's instructions. Brother, I understand. It's okay, just leave it to me." Sun Luan trembled slightly upon hearing this, his fists clenched, his nails almost piercing deeply into his flesh. At this moment, the information about that holy dynasty Daki that he had searched for before couldn't help but surface in his mind again. Perhaps, I can try contacting them. Being a dog for a lifetime also carries the risk of being beheaded at any time. Perhaps this Daki can really give me some surprises. The boundless mirror pretended to search for information related to the Tianquan mirror's avatar in the Tianquan realm. In reality, it was inquiring about the reason why those 16 cultivators would be treated so favorably. There will also be a chapter at 12:30. 12:13. The Sea of AA Stars meets secretly. Obviously, it was a top secret of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Hidden very deeply, even after repairing a portion of the Primal Chaos Squared Grand Formation, the immeasurable mirror still had extreme difficulty searching. It also had to be careful to avoid being discovered by the Celestial Mystery Mirror. In the continuous search, the immeasurable mirror gradually became somewhat overloaded. The mirror body began to shake violently, and faint cracks even appeared on the mirror surface. Sun Luan watched with bloodshot eyes, repeatedly wanting to put away the Celestial Mystery small mirror. However, the firm belief that Sun Luyao remotely transmitted stopped him each time. "Brother, I can hold on a little longer. I've already found a trace, I can't give up now. Brother, I can do it." Listening to Sun Luyao's almost uncontrollable painful voice, Sun Luan's initial thoughts gradually became firm. Time seemed to pass exceptionally slowly. Sun Luan's heart was cut by knives, as if sitting on pins and needles. Besides worrying that his younger brother wouldn't be able to hold on and would be completely destroyed, he also worried about being discovered by the Celestial Mystery Mirror. Finally, the immeasurable mirror actively cut off the devouring black light. That strange small mirror couldn't even maintain its floating state anymore, and fell to the ground with a clang. Sun Luan quickly took out the spare essence blood and poured it in. After a long while, the immeasurable mirror tremblingly recovered a little. "How is it?" Sun Luan was even a little afraid to ask. "Brother, I didn't fail my mission." Fortunately, his younger brother didn't disappoint him. The moment he heard these 4 words, Sun Luan felt relieved. And after checking the top secret information his younger brother had found out, his expression constantly changed. Fu's suspicion was correct, Kang has indeed been controlled. Wei Du, it seems that the internal situation of this mirror holder is more complicated than we imagined. Sun Luyao's shadowy figure said weakly, "Brother, our Sun family is still too weak, a little carelessness, and we'll be torn to pieces. Don't worry, leave the rest to me," Sun Luan said in a deep voice. "Oh, right, brother. This time, can you leave the Celestial Mystery small mirror behind?" Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly heard Sun Luyao say this. Sun Luan couldn't help but hesitate. "Don't worry, brother, I haven't lost control. In fact, after the recent few extreme explorations, I don't know why, but my control over the immeasurable mirror has become even deeper. I was thinking that when I have extra strength, I'll try a few more times. It'll be even easier to handle in the future." In the end, Sun Luan was persuaded by his younger brother's sincere words. And the other party's condition was indeed much better than the times he had lost control after ending previous explorations. So, after repeatedly instructing him a few times, he still left the Celestial Mystery small mirror behind. Not long after Sun Luan hurriedly left. A wisp of illusory shadow floated out from the immeasurable mirror and entered the celestial mystery small mirror. After a moment, streaks of light continuously flickered. A large amount of resources to nourish the divine soul were purchased. Li Fan's divided spirit devoured them to his heart's content, and his originally weak condition quickly reversed. With the celestial mystery mirror's origin, he could completely steal a large amount of resources through the small mirror without anyone knowing. At this time, Sun Luyao's figure also floated out. Looking at Li Fan, his face was full of fear. These divine soul-nourishing treasures were useless to him. But the casual guidance of this lord could make his fusion with the immeasurable mirror even smoother. It should be known that this was something that he and his brother had spent hundreds of years trying to do without success. The terror of this lord was beyond doubt. In Sun Luyao's eyes, he was much more terrifying than any mirror holder. And his surrender seemed only natural. Brother, you can understand me, right? Sun Luyao thought silently. The seemingly painful performance he had put on in front of Sun Luan was naturally all an act. Although there were some twists and turns, it was without any real danger. It was just that the news that Lord had painstakingly sought out made him somewhat confused. 16 cultivators, summoned by the Dharma transmitter, leaving profound yellow, going to the outer heavens. In Sun Luyao's view, there was nothing particularly rare about this. But in Li Fan's eyes, the meaning was very different. While his divided spirit was slowly recovering, Li Fan was also pondering this matter. The Dharma transmitter would actually break precedent and summon cultivators to leave the profound yellow world. What's going on? With his strength, even if these 16 people were nurtured into Tao integration in a short period of time by the Immortal Alliance, they would still be nothing but ants. And they weren't selected from the existing Tao integration cultivators of the Immortal Alliance. Li Fan recalled the nail he had arranged, Yang Fei. There didn't seem to be anything special about him. Li Fan wasn't worried that Yang Fei would really meet the Dharma transmitter and expose himself, because he himself didn't even know that he was a spy of the Great Enlightenment of the Holy Dynasty. Because Yang Fei was indeed a cultivator of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, but coincidentally, before participating in the Immortal Alliance Grand Examination, he had befriended a pair of friends who were quite knowledgeable about the Immortal Alliance Grand Examination and had guessed a few questions correctly. It can be confirmed that the Dharma transmitter summoning these 16 cultivators is definitely related to the echoing star power that shakes the profound yellow world. It's just that I don't know what the Dharma transmitter has encountered that he needs these 16 cultivators. Moreover, now that the echoing star power near the immortal ruins has disappeared, I also don't know how this group of people will leave the profound yellow world. This matter was too secretive, and even the records in the celestial mystery mirror were not many. It's a pity that my holy embryo is far away on the other side of the star sea, otherwise, I could have followed behind them to investigate. Thinking of this, Li Fan's thoughts suddenly paused slightly. He suddenly thought that the purpose of the Dharma transmitter in the dark star sea was to collect fragments of various immortal cultivation worlds. And the location of the holy embryo was because that mysterious echoing star power had attracted and gathered all the relics of cultivators in the star sea, forming the Sea of Relics. Since relics gather, then are the fragments of the immortal cultivation world also like this? Outside the Sea of Relics, is there another sea of fragmented worlds? On the other side of the star sea, Li Fan, the holy embryo lurking and hiding outside the profound immortal boat, suddenly opened his eyes. His vision seemed to penetrate the endless ruins and darkness, looking into the depths of the Sea of Relics. Could it be that I am now very close to the Dharma transmitter? Li Fan couldn't help but think like this. If my guess is correct, then if I wait here, I might be able to wait for the 16 cultivators of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Thinking further, the Dharma transmitter is such a powerful existence, wandering in the dark star sea for thousands of years, it's impossible that he doesn't know about the immortal boat civilization hidden here. The two sides may have already had contact. It's just that the immortal boat may not know the true identity of the Dharma transmitter. Although from the information currently available, the immortal boat civilization seems weak and vulnerable. But being able to exist in the dark star sea for tens of thousands of years, and even have some knowledge of the power of true immortal runes. The top power of the immortal boat is definitely not to be underestimated. Zhao Xian's strength is too low, and he also knows limited information about the past of the immortal boat. It seems that a little forced growth is needed. Recommend a new book. 1214. The sky is broken and the earth is missing. After drifting through the Star Sea for 10,000 years, even without any civilization collapse, the Shua Nexia N boat's cultivation methods and theoretical level hadn't improved at all. All the worlds they saw were destroyed, with only the power of various destructive true immortal runes echoing in the Star Sea. As the saying goes, those who live by the mountain live off the mountain, those who live by the water live off the water, so the Shua Nexia N boat pinned all its hopes on researching this great power. As for other aspects compared to the calamity-ridden Shua Nua Ing world, they were far behind. At the very least, in the extreme environment where cultivation methods couldn't be practiced simultaneously, the various ingenious methods born in the Shua Nua Ing world were all existences that the Shua Nexia N boat cultivators found astonishing. With the Myriad Immortals Alliance's cultivation method library as a foundation, LC Fa N's clone quickly found the most suitable set of cultivation methods for Zhao Sha N. Of course, in Zhao Sha N's own view, this was just a part of the vast number of cultivation methods derived by the future Dao Proving Academy through the derivation Jade. A Spirit God Harmonization Art. A divine art that is still suitable for cultivators to practice even in situations of extreme resource scarcity. It can achieve perfect coordination of divine consciousness and spiritual power, and if either is strong, it can be converted into the weaker one. Within the Academy, the spiritual power provided is really limited. It's already the limit to provide me with enough to advance to the Golden Core stage. If I want to go further, it's simply impossible. But I can use secret methods that can increase the power of my divine consciousness to drive the increase of spiritual power. In the Academy's exchange list, the value of the things needed to perform the secret method is far less than that of spirit stones. Zhao Sha N, who was troubled by being stuck in a bottleneck, suddenly had a flash of inspiration and recalled more from that strange future dream. Excited, he immediately spent all the contribution points he had accumulated over the years to exchange for the materials needed to temper his divine consciousness. Black God Glue, Crimson Ancient Paste, Mind-Nourishing Ambera. These ordinary items for calming the mind and spirit in the immortal boat were burned and melted by Zhao Sha N using flames, turning them into a crystalline liquid. Then, like a whale absorbing water, it continuously entered his sea of consciousness. The scalding heat almost instantly burned Zhao Sha N's divine consciousness clean. After a brief blankness of consciousness, Zhao Sha N found that he had actually adapted to this heat. At the same time, the strength of his divine consciousness also began to increase visibly. This is truly a supreme and wonderful method. Zhao Sha N praised in his heart. However, what Zhao Sha N didn't know was that the reason his fragile chi refining stage divine consciousness could be preserved in such a violent melting was all thanks to LC Fa N's clone. Even most of the effects of the paste made from those treasures were absorbed and refined by LC Fa N's clone. After all, Zhao Sha N only had the cultivation of the late stage of chi refining, and just a trace was enough to allow his divine consciousness to steadily improve. When Zhao Sha N woke up from his cultivation, he felt that the strength of his divine consciousness had almost doubled compared to before. It had already reached the level of the middle stage of foundation establishment. Compared to this vast power of divine consciousness, his spiritual power cultivation seemed a bit weak. It was like a giant playing with a toy body. Zhao Sha N suppressed the ecstasy in his heart and quickly activated the Spirit God Harmonization art. An invisible millstone suddenly appeared in his sea of consciousness. It crushed the power of divine consciousness, turning it into pure power, nourishing Zhao Sha N's body. Without absorbing any spiritual energy, Zhao Sha N's cultivation was also advancing wildly at a terrifying speed. Finally, after 3 days, Zhao Sha N's divine consciousness and spiritual power were balanced at the early stage of foundation establishment. I've succeeded in foundation establishment. Coming back to his senses, Zhao Sha N looked at his hands in disbelief. This breakthrough was too easy. I didn't feel any of the heart demons or bottlenecks that the master and the academy seniors talked about. After foundation establishment, my permissions in the academy have also increased a lot. I can exchange for more materials. Cultivation is probably going to be faster than before. After all, he was just a young man, fantasizing about the future. Zhao Sha N couldn't help but feel excited. In the end, it was the scene of the immortal boat's destruction in the future dream that pulled him back to reality. The road ahead is long, and I still have a long way to go. I must not be arrogant. Zhao Sha N was thinking about how to make greater use of his prescience advantage to achieve a rapid rise in status. But LC Fa N's clone was savoring the scene of Zhao Sha N's breakthrough earlier. Zhao Sha N didn't really encounter any obstacles to breaking through, but was blocked by LC Fa N. That wave that appeared out of nowhere, directly pointing to the heart. It's not a true immortal rune. It's the Star Sea Heavenly Tao A. At this moment, the holy embryo LC Fa N outside the Shua Nxia N boat suddenly felt something. His body directly contacted this space filled with deathly aura. The holy embryo LC Fa N had already understood during the process of crossing the Dark Star Sea that this Dark Star Sea actually shared a basic set of Tao principles with the Shua Nua Ing world. Even the upper limit was a bit higher than the Shua Nua Ing world. His sword Tao, which had reached its limit in the Shua Nua Ing world, had actually unknowingly broken through its original bottleneck and reached a new height during this time of crossing the Star Sea. And the bottleneck that manifested as the calamity of heaven in the Shua Nua Ing world had another form of existence in this Dark Star Sea. Persuading people to return to the Tao, all thoughts are disheartened. It's just a breakthrough in the perfection of Qi refining, and it already has such power. If I hadn't experienced too much and my heart was as strong as no ordinary person can be I'm afraid I would have to use the immortal heart mantra to resolve it. The holy embryo LC Fa N was secretly apprehensive. In the various illusions wrapped in that invisible wave, the holy embryo LC Fa N seemed to see the scene of breaking through successfully, then experiencing all kinds of hardships but ultimately dying in various calamities. No matter how hard you try, you can't escape the ending of failure. It's better to return to the Tao, return to the Tao A. The obsession was like a demonic sound, echoing in the sea of consciousness, persuading him to give up cultivation. This heavenly Tao of the Dark Star Sea is a bit interesting. It's somewhat similar to the ancient heart demons recorded in the Shua Nua Ing world's classics. Looking at the leopard through a tube, you can see that although this star sea has been destroyed by the power of true immortal runes, its basic underlying operation is still intact. The holy embryo LC Fa N kept thinking, and his vision suddenly opened up, as if he saw a world that was even wider and shrouded outside the Shua Nua Ing world. Even if this world was incomplete, it gave LC Fa N new ideas for understanding the principles of the world. He once again savored the content of the heavenly physician's heaven-patching record. If the situation in the Shua Nua Ing world is a terminally ill, stitched-up monster whose body has been possessed, then this Dark Star Sea has long been dead, with most of its body crushed by great force, and only a few remaining limbs and fragments. The Shua Nua Ing world can still be saved, but this Dark Star Sea is completely hopeless. Of course, this is from the perspective of the heavenly physician when writing the heaven-patching record. There is another chapter around 1230. 1215. Breaking the Sea of AA Stars with Force. The only thing we can do is dissect and analyze these remnants of the world. Perhaps we can deduce and reconstruct the state of this Dark Star Sea before its demise. However, after all, it is in existence several levels higher than the ordinary Xuanwang cultivation world. Even its corpse can provide immense benefits. The aura around holy embryo Li Fan suddenly changed. Like magma erupting violently, his aura, which was already at the peak of the transformation god stage, expanded several times in an instant. It was a pity that the holy embryo still couldn't escape the connection limitations between the clone and the main body. As if an invisible shackle existed, it ruthlessly suppressed the soaring aura. Holy embryo Li Fan grunted and actually spat out a mouthful of blood. Within the small world evolved from the black sword in his body, countless black cracks appeared, as if it would be destroyed at any moment. But holy embryo Li Fan's eyes were instead filled with excitement. The world is incomplete, and the laws are weakened. As expected, in this Dark Star Sea, it is possible for the clone's realm to surpass the main body. Holy embryo Li Fan savored the impact of that instant expansion. Like barbaric brute force, forcibly breaking the shackles of heaven and earth. I am still lacking some of the driving force to break through. I faltered halfway and suffered a backlash. If I had accumulated a little more, I could have broken through that shackle in one fell swoop. Li Fan suddenly remembered the scene where his clone cultivated the heaven-devouring earth-devouring great art and forcibly broke through the calamity of heaven. This is called breaking the Tao with force. If it were a normal great world, one would not possess such powerful power without becoming a true immortal. But the Dark Star Sea is incomplete, and the requirements are greatly reduced. After my clone forcibly broke through the bottleneck of the calamity of heaven, it suffered a counterattack from the Xuanwang heavenly Tao, that giant palm. In this dark star sea, even this kind of backlash may not occur. A holy embryo Li Fan, like Zhao Xian just now, was filled with a sense of enlightenment. From 1 to 10,000. Since this inherent law can be broken, can others also be realized? When a whale falls, all things live. The death of the star sea, for the ultimately surviving cultivators, may be an extremely rare opportunity in hundreds of millions of years. His strength, which far exceeds ordinary cultivators, in spreading the Dharma, besides the fact that all the new Dharma cultivators in the entire Xuanwang world are his foundation, may be inseparable from this. Having stayed in the star sea for 10,000 years, he is probably infinitely close to the legendary Immortal. The holy embryo's understanding in the dark star sea greatly impacted Li Fan's main body. The discovery that the incomplete star sea great world was actually beneficial to cultivators even made his aura slightly disordered. This attracted the attention of the two Dao integration elders, Hua Yuming and Zhang Shu. Fellow Taoist son. It's nothing, I just thought of my beloved wife at home and became distracted, Li Fan said with some shame. The two guardians showed strange expressions and nodded in understanding. Restabilizing his mind, Li Fan's main body forcibly suppressed the urge to rush out of the Xuanwang world immediately. Opportunity and crisis always coexist. The current dark star sea, although it is a cultivation holy land for cultivators, there is no doubt that it is also full of dangers. If the holy embryo hadn't been built with the heavenly wonder, I'm afraid it would have fallen halfway. Facing those strange things in the star sea, even the world evolved from my 5 elements great cave heaven cannot last too long. The invisible cave in the dark void, and the deadly black plague. Neither of them is something that Li Fan can deal with now. Borrowing the holy embryo's insights is the same. Li Fan could only comfort himself in this way. If the 16 Dao integration cultivators of the Myriad Immortals Alliance leave the Xuanwang world, they should be able to slowly discover this secret. I just don't know if they can come back alive. Li Fan was pessimistic about the fate of these 16 people. In the eyes of the Dharma transmitter, the Xuanwang world cultivators are definitely just tools. This summoning should not escape this fate. However, I can think of a way to steal the method of flying out of the Xuanwang world without the echoing star force. The appearance of the echoing star force in this life was purely accidental. There is no guarantee that it can be reproduced in the future. And since I already know the importance of the dark star sea, how can I miss it? Even if this time point is top secret and cannot be found out, but after a few decades, or when the great Sheng dynasty forces the Myriad Immortals Alliance and the two sides go to war, this kind of secret will be neglected and not difficult to inquire about. Although he said so, Li Fan was always paying attention to these 16 people. Through the heavenly mystery small mirror, the distracting spirit left in the Sun family has been able to stably maintain its form. With the recovery of the distracting spirit's strength, Sun Luyao in the immeasurable mirror has also become increasingly powerful, and the fusion with the immeasurable mirror has become more and more obvious. On this day, when peeking into the heavenly mystery mirror, Sun Luyao suddenly plucked up his courage and said to Li Fan, Senior, I seem to have sensed the location of another fragment of the immeasurable mirror. Perhaps after absorbing it, the ability of the immeasurable mirror will be further enhanced. The fragment that the Sun family brothers found after searching almost the entire territory of the Myriad Immortals Alliance did indeed bring about a qualitative change to the immeasurable mirror. If it is restored a little more, it might really bring Li Fan a surprise. However, Li Fan's distracting spirit pretended not to hear. He just patiently completed the peeking into the heavenly mystery mirror and still did not find the information of the 16 people recruited by the Dharma transmitter. Then he coldly looked at Sun Luyao. What location? Sun Luyao carefully conveyed the sensed information. After seeing the location pointed out by Sun Luyao, Li Fan's distracting spirit couldn't help but feel a little surprised. It is located in the 100-stone cave heaven on the border of Shilin Prefecture. The ruins of the heavenly mystery sect and the entrance to the spirit wood realm are all in this underground continuous cave. I know. Li Fan's distracting spirit only replied faintly and did not show any intention of going to find it. Sun Luyao did not dare to ask more questions. It was not until 7 days later, when Sun Luan came to the secret room again, that Sun Luyao, with Li Fan's permission, eagerly said this matter again. Contrary to Li Fan's indifference, Sun Luan was overjoyed. If you can find another fragment, you might not have to suffer like this anymore. Sun Luyao nodded in agreement. By the way, brother, what was the reaction of that old fellow Fu after he learned about the heavenly mystery mirror clone? Sun Luyao asked again. Hearing this, Sun Luan frowned. The birth of a human clone from the heavenly mystery mirror is of great importance and needs to be done slowly. I can understand why he has no movement for the time being. But the strange thing is that I have not been able to contact him since the last time we met. Can't contact him. Not only Fu's side. Even the headquarters of the Myriad Immortals Alliance is temporarily inaccessible. It seems that there is something extremely important happening. 1216. The Infinite Ancient Dust. It's really strange that even an urgent matter like the heavenly mystery mirror possibly transforming into a human clone and escaping has been put on hold. If it weren't for the fact that I can still contact the outside world unilaterally, I would almost think that the Immortal Alliance had already fallen, Sun Luyuan said with a frown. Sun Luyao also feigned surprise at this time. Is there such a thing? I didn't even glimpse anything related to it in the heavenly mystery mirror. The two brothers looked at each other. Sun Luyao said somewhat uncertainly, I don't know if it's because I failed to pry, or if the Myriad Immortals Alliance is even concealing this matter from the heavenly mystery mirror. The Immortal Alliance headquarters is originally an independent space within the heavenly mystery mirror. If you want to shield the heavenly mystery mirror's perception, I'm afraid the Council of Law Speakers and the mirror holder must join forces to cast it. Sun Luyuan's expression was solemn, as if he had remembered something. The Immortal Alliance headquarters is inside the heavenly mystery mirror. Sun Luyao was unaware of this and was taken aback. Sun Luyuan came back to his senses at this time, nodded, but did not explain too much. It's a good thing for us that the old guy Fu can't spare the time. We can take this opportunity to find the fragment of the immeasurable mirror that you sensed. Okay, brother. Sun Luyao naturally had no objections to this. I originally wanted to take advantage of this rare gap to take you to the Essence Blood Pool to nourish yourself. I can only wait until we come back. Sun Luyuan shook his head slightly. The Essence Blood Pool is a secret place of the Sun family, where the direct descendants of the family usually donate their blood essence. In addition to being refined by secret methods, the effect is even better than the blood essence of Sun Luyuan, this close relative. It's just that when collecting the blood essence of the family disciples, it can't be done too frequently, otherwise it will definitely arouse suspicion. Therefore, it takes a considerable amount of time to accumulate the nourishment needed. Sun Luyao had tasted that kind of taste a few times before, and it did have some effect. Buddha, compared with the methods of the ancestors, it is far inferior. Family blood essence nourishment, in the final analysis, is to strengthen Sun Luyao's remnant soul power. The stronger his own power, the easier it is to erode the immeasurable mirror. However, Li Fan directly displayed the method of mastering the immeasurable mirror in front of him. Not only is there no need to use brute force to erode it, but even the damaged and disordered immeasurable mirror has shown signs of slow recovery, allowing him to no longer feel the previous pain when facing the immeasurable mirror. Although he thought so in his heart, he still had to do the superficial work. So he pretended to be a little regretful. Sun Luyuan saw it in his eyes and comforted him. Let's see if this trip is smooth. If we come back quickly, there will still be plenty of time. After saying this, Sun Luyuan returned and made some preparations. When he returned to the secret room again, he had already turned into the image of a junior of the Sun family. It was Sun Luyuan's usual disguise. Let's go. Putting the immeasurable mirror into his arms, Sun Luyuan quietly left the Sun family and rushed towards Shilin Prefecture. Perhaps because of the damaged and unstable nature of the immeasurable mirror, it could not use the teleportation array and could only fly with its physical body. Fortunately, this distance is not too far for a Dao harmonization cultivator, and he soon arrived at the entrance of the 100-stone grotto heaven. According to Sun Luyao's perception, he continued to delve into the underground cave. When he encountered a dead end, he forcibly broke it open, getting closer and closer to his destination. This damn place. But the deeper he went, the harder the walls of the cave became, and Sun Luyuan actually became a little strenuous. Brother, it's almost there. Sun Luyao sensed the familiar aura ahead, and couldn't help but feel a little excited. Perhaps because he was too deep underground before, it affected his perception. When he really came here, he realized that this fragment might be larger than he had imagined. Someone behind us. Just when he was almost a wall away from the immeasurable mirror fragment, Sun Luyuan's expression suddenly changed and he stopped. We're actually being tracked. Sun Luyuan reacted quickly and immediately changed the direction of his advance, continuing to delve into the cave. Suddenly accelerating, his figure had instantly disappeared into the maze-like passage. Two cultivators wearing blue robes showed their figures at this moment, with somewhat ugly expressions. Damn it, he still found out. It seems that Sun Luyuan's cultivation has improved again. It doesn't matter, we have already blocked the entrance. He can't escape. However, what these two people didn't know was that in the deeper part of the cave, Sun Luyuan had already used the immeasurable mirror to see all their actions. Tianquan, the Chen family. Sun Luyuan snorted coldly. Sun Luyuan naturally knew about the various small actions of the Chen family of the medicine hall, who had always coveted the immeasurable mirror. However, the other party still had some foundation after all, and there was no reason to attack before they took concrete actions. They actually took the initiative to come to my door, giving me a chance. Sun Luyuan suddenly had a plan in mind. Revealing his own aura, he attracted the two Chen family members to move deeper into the ground. Then he quietly hid and quickly returned to where the immeasurable mirror fragment was located. Boom! Opening a closed cave, Sun Luyuan quickly locked onto the location of the fragment. This seems to be the ruins of an ancient sect. The immeasurable mirror fragment was actually fused into another mirror-shaped magic weapon. It's a pity that this sect has long been destroyed, and this mirror-shaped magic weapon has also been buried underground for thousands of years. Knowing that he should not stay here for long, Sun Luyuan didn't have time to take a closer look and put it away. Then, regardless of hiding, he even burned his blood essence, and his strength burst out in an instant. In an instant, he had already rushed to the exit of the 100-stone grotto heaven. The two cultivators guarding the entrance were caught off guard and could not resist for a while. Sun Luyuan actually rushed out like this. Chen family, if I don't avenge this revenge, I swear I will not be human. Although he was not injured, Sun Luyuan suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and his aura quickly weakened. His voice was like thunder, echoing for a long time in the sky above Shilin Prefecture. Then Sun Luyuan turned into a ray of light and continued to fly towards the center of the Immortal Alliance. Only leaving behind two Chen family cultivators who were a little confused. When the two Dao harmonization cultivators who had been lured away in the cave finally arrived, they realized what had happened. It's bad. The four of them looked at each other with gloomy expressions. Since the matter has already been exposed, it is impossible to chase and kill in broad daylight. This action has failed. The Sun family is afraid that they will completely tear off their masks. Let's go back and discuss how to deal with it as soon as possible. At worst, we don't want that immortal artifact and directly make this matter public. I don't believe that his small Sun family can protect this immortal artifact. The figures of the four Chen family members disappeared one after another. In Shilin Prefecture, the discussions about Sun Luyuan's roar just now gradually aroused people's discussion. A storm gradually spread. At the same time, Sun Luyuan had already returned home. He went straight to the underground secret room and took out the immeasurable mirror. Only one chapter today, too tired from the business trip. 12:17, the immortal wind disaster appears. On the way, Sun Luyuan could clearly feel the restlessness of the boundless mirror in his arms, as well as the familiar, uncontrolled roar of his younger brother, Sun Luyao. He forcibly suppressed it until he returned safely, then released it. Brother, give it to me quickly. I can't take it anymore. The mirror surface shook violently, and Sun Luyao's smoky shadow seemed to be constantly buffeted by a hurricane, twisting erratically. Calm down. Sun Luyuan let out a low shout and skillfully offered a drop of his own essence blood, alleviating his brother's frenzy. Only then did he take out the mirror that he had retrieved from the Baishi winter ruins. The aura of the same origin indicated that the main body of the mirror was indeed a fragment of the boundless mirror. However, it had been reforged into a separate magical treasure. Sun Luyuan carefully dispelled the remaining restrictions on the mirror before throwing it to his brother. The restraints vanished, and the darkness greedily floated into the air above the mirror. A dim beam of light spewed from Sun Luyao's mouth, corroding this ancient treasure. As the mirror slowly disappeared into the black light, Sun Luyao's host, the somewhat old and dilapidated boundless mirror, underwent a visible transformation. The marks of time slowly faded, and the sense of antiquity disappeared, replaced by a vicissitude born of hardship. The boundless mirror's surface constantly surged with a palpitating luster. Even Sun Luan felt a slight tremor in his mind. Is this the power of a celestial artifact? He thought to himself, increasingly anticipating his brother's performance after awakening from the devouring. Meanwhile, Li Fan's divine sense, hidden within the mirror as the true master of the boundless mirror, was able to witness the transformation, or rather, the restoration, of the boundless mirror even more directly. The boundless, Hongmeng square formation, which had originally been missing many parts, was gradually being completed. As if it had a core, an unspeakable, magical power flowed out from the formation like a gentle stream, nourishing the boundless mirror's aged body. This was the reason why, in the eyes of outsiders, the celestial artifact was instantly renewed. Incidentally, Li Fan's divine sense also benefited from this, undergoing a transformation from a divine sense to a divine soul. Li Fan even had a feeling that if he continued to absorb the energy from this boundless mirror, in time, his divine sense might even grow stronger than his main soul. It should be known that Li Fan had reached his current realm step by step, with an incomparably solid foundation. Not to mention the theoretical accumulation of multiple reincarnations, the five elements Grand Cave Heaven and the Zanhuang life and death transformation were all essences of the Zanhuang realm. Yet, the peak of the Tao integration realm, built on this foundation, could be matched by the energy from this broken mirror. Even if it was only in terms of the divine soul, it still greatly shocked Li Fan. He exclaimed the same thing as Sun Luan, is this the power of a celestial artifact? The energy emerging from the boundless mirror resembled order and vitality. However, just as Li Fan thought it would completely restore the boundless mirror suddenly fell to the ground uncontrollably. The mirror surface projected a cluster of light and shadow, enveloping the secret underground chamber. The images flashed by rapidly. The scenes of prophecy within caused both Sun Luan and Li Fan to be greatly shaken. The peaceful Zanhuang continent was engulfed in war. The cultivators of the myriad Immortals alliance were fighting with another unknown force. The light arrows that flew across the sky caused earth-shattering explosions wherever they struck. A golden giant fought fiercely with a bare-chested, black-haired man, neither gaining an advantage. Affected by their power, even the white mist barriers between heaven and earth twisted and broke. Even more frightening was that, on this battlefield, there was also a figure wearing a black imperial robe, with an unreadable face. Standing above everyone else, opposite him, another figure was equally blurred. Boom! As if the deduction had reached its limit, the images projected by the boundless mirror suddenly became distorted. Then, a burst of intense white light erupted. After the light disappeared, all that remained was a deathly silence and darkness. Cha! A crack reappeared on the boundless mirror's surface, which had just shown signs of improvement. Sun Luyao let out a miserable scream as his shadow was forcibly sucked back into the mirror. Brother! Sun Luan instantly recovered from his shock, his expression changed, and he was about to pick up the boundless mirror. However, the moment he approached, his hand recoiled as if it had been burned by scorching flames. Sun Luan looked at his outstretched right hand with a solemn expression. In a short time, it seemed to have experienced thousands of years, the skin shriveled, and wrinkles emerged. It wasn't just his physical body that was like this. Sun Luan felt that a part of his divine soul had also truly experienced the passage of time, making it difficult to restore its original state. If it was this bad just from inadvertently touching it, let alone Li Fan's divine sense within the boundless mirror. Earlier, when he saw the Zanhuang realm's future being deduced spontaneously within the boundless mirror, Li Fan was shocked and wanted to take a closer look. However, the sudden, fatal sense of crisis that arose in his heart made him unable to care about anything else. This power of obliteration was hidden in the deepest part of the boundless mirror. Even Li Fan's divine sense, which had basically achieved control over it, hadn't noticed it at all before it erupted. And it came so swiftly and violently. Like the erosion of time, the boundless mirror, which had just absorbed the fragment and somewhat recovered its vitality, instantly experienced hundreds of millions of kalpas of wind and frost, becoming decadent once more. And the Hongmeng square formation at the core of the boundless mirror was like a storm had blown through it. Some of the complete structures became broken again. Li Fan's divine sense was naturally unable to escape unscathed. Originally just a wisp of remnant spirit, it soon became like a candle in the wind, about to completely dissipate. Fortunately, firstly, he had previously used the array refinement method to largely refine the boundless mirror. By residing within the mirror and borrowing its power, he gained some resistance. Secondly, at the critical moment when he realized that his divine sense was about to perish, Li Fan instinctively recited the Zan Huang Immortal Heart mantra. Although it couldn't restore what had already been eroded, it greatly slowed down the rate at which the divine sense was being extinguished in this storm. After struggling for a long time, the terrifying disaster within the boundless mirror finally slowly dissipated. Li Fan realized that it hadn't disappeared. Instead, it had returned to the depths of the boundless mirror and lay dormant once more. At this time, Sun Luowan's anxious voice slowly came. "Brother, what's wrong?" Sun Luyao, however, was too severely damaged to respond. Seeing this, Sun Luowan reacted quickly. He immediately took the boundless mirror into the Sun family's essence blood pool. Although it was called an essence blood pool, it didn't have the slightest fishy smell. Instead, it was filled with the fragrance of heavenly materials and earthly treasures. The pool water wasn't blood red either, but a rainbow-like dream, like flowing light from the sky. Immersed in it, Li Fan's somewhat aged divine sense felt relieved. Why is it being consumed so quickly? Sun Luowan was shocked to see the speed at which the essence blood pool's water was changing color. However, he then gritted his teeth and left, apparently to gather more essence blood. 1218. The Hidden Dangers of Xuanwang. Li Fan, who had survived the ordeal, began to recall the terrifying power within the immeasurable mirror. Is this the reason for the immeasurable mirror's damage? The feeling it gives me even surpasses those true immortal runes. Although everything I've seen so far is just imitation of true immortal runes, what's in this immeasurable mirror is just the remaining aftermath. Could the calamity of the immortal realm be related to this? Even with 1,000 curiosities in his heart, Li Fan didn't want to delve into it deeply at the moment. An existence capable of destroying the immortal realm was definitely not something he could deal with right now. It's only a remnant within the immeasurable mirror. Even if induced to release it, it would at most envelop a city. It might only be useful at crucial moments. Li Fan pondered. No wonder a dignified immortal artifact would fall to the point of being occupied by the remnant soul of a Foundation establishment cultivator. That annihilation storm is truly terrifying. Originally belonging to the immeasurable sect and located in the Xuanwang world, yet it underwent such a change. Doesn't that mean this calamity happened in the Xuanwang world? The aftermath alone can damage an immortal artifact. If it happened, it's impossible that no traces would be left behind. Li Fan's thoughts paused. He suddenly thought of two major events that changed the course of Xuanwang world's history, which might be related to it. One was the inexplicable disappearance of Zan Tianwang, Zan Yuanong. The other was the disappearance of the 6 top-tier longevity realm cultivators who besieged the Dharma transmitter, who at the time only had the integration realm cultivation. These people's cultivation had already reached the pinnacle of their era. Ordinary things within the Xuanwang world couldn't harm them at all. Unless Li Fan's heart stirred. Power beyond the mortal realm. Li Fan also thought of the Grand Dharma Master of Tiandu, who came to the Xuanwang world after the Great Calamity and had been entrenched in Dao origin state ever since he was injured. Was his arrival back then really accidental? At this moment, a strong sense of doubt arose in Li Fan's heart. This matter also served as a wake-up call for Li Fan. Even though his perspective could extend beyond the Xuanwang world to the other side of the Star Sea, there were still existences within the Xuanwang world that he couldn't see through or reach. No matter what he did, he had to be extra careful. While his thoughts were churning, Sun Luowan had hurriedly returned. He refined a large amount of blood essence and several materials, adding them to the blood essence pool. The originally somewhat dim pool water became radiant again. Li Fan also became concerned about the condition of the immeasurable mirror. It had almost regressed to the state before absorbing the fragments. However, it was still more complete after all. Li Fan believed that after Sun Luyao woke up, the situation would improve to some extent. Moreover, Li Fan had briefly glimpsed a more complete Grand Mist C-square Great Formation. Even if he couldn't perfectly restore it, he could still do some repairs. 3 days later, Sun Luyao, the immeasurable mirror spirit, finally woke up briefly from his slumber. "Brother, I need some things." After informing him of the materials needed to repair the formation, he fell unconscious again. Sun Luowan looked at the list of materials his brother sent and hurried to gather them. During this time, fearing retaliation from Sun Luowan if he was pushed too far, the Chen family of the medicine hall had been closely watching Sun Luowan's movements. However, Sun Luan seemed to have forgotten about this matter, going in and out, seemingly busy with some urgent matter. This made the Chen family somewhat confused. In addition, they couldn't contact their backer, the Dharma transmitter Chong, at the Immortal Alliance headquarters. Therefore, the Chen family also chose to stand still and observe the situation. With Sun Luan's unrestrained collection, the required materials were quickly completed. It appeared to be absorbed by Sun Luyao, but in reality, it was Li Fan's clone who took action. As the fragmented formation core recovered, the condition of the immeasurable mirror slowly stabilized. After hearing about his brother's experience, Sun Luan frowned. "Brother, do you still remember the ancient ruins where we found this mirror back then?" Sun Luyao was slightly stunned. "Before, I thought that the ruins were just a simple ancient site that had experienced the passage of time. But now that you mention Ida." Sun Luan's expression was a little unsightly. "That place seems to have been destroyed by the annihilation storm in the Mirora. Perhaps it was precisely because of the previous release that our brothers were able to take advantage of it. Otherwise, with our cultivation at the time, how could we have subdued this mirror?" Sun Luyao recalled the past scene and slowly realized. There is such a possibility. I remember that almost no valuable things could be found in the ruins. The only thing that could be recognized by the heavenly mystery mirror also gave a very low recycling contribution. You should rest and recuperate. After some time, I will go back to the ruins to investigate. The entrance there is extremely hidden, and coupled with the fact that only ruins remain, so many years have passed, there shouldn't be much change. Maybe there will be some discoveries, Sun Luan said in a deep voice. "Brother, be careful." Sun Luyao didn't dissuade him, but instead exhorted. "And the Chen family, Sun Luan suddenly snorted coldly. He also remembered the scene that the immeasurable mirror had inexplicably deduced before. That force fighting inextricably with the myriad Immortal Alliance seems to be the great chi of the Holy Dynasty that my brother had previously inquired about. In that case, the heavenly mystery mirror's prediction still has some basis. Two great treasures have made such predictions. It seems it's time to try contacting the other party." Sun Luan naturally wouldn't personally go to their door at the beginning. After all, the great chi of the Holy Dynasty hasn't publicly opposed the myriad Immortal Alliance yet. He would let his confidants inquire first, and then make specific decisions later. In comparison, the immeasurable mirror, which was originally thought to be a treasure but has now become a potentially explosive disaster, is what worries Sun Luan even more. His brother has become the immeasurable mirror spirit, so it's definitely impossible to abandon it. Sun Luan prepared for a while and planned to go back to the ruins to take a look first. The encounter at 100 Stone Cave Heaven made Sun Luan know that the Chen family must still be secretly monitoring him. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, Sun Luan directly contacted an old friend. "Ji Hongdao, old Ji, there's something I want to ask for your help." Sun Luan contacted him through a spirit talisman. Soon, Ji Hongdao arrived at the door of the Sun family. "Ha ha ha, old Sun, I can finally repay the favor I owed you back then." Ji Hongdao laughed loudly. "I heard that you recently had a conflict with the Chen family of the medicine hall." After entering the house, Ji Hongdao suddenly lowered his voice. "Yes, the treasure that Lu Yao is residing in was somehow discovered by the Chen family," Sun Luan said truthfully. Ji Hongdao understood. "Don't worry, although they have the Dharma transmitter as their backer, old Sun, you also have the mirror holder to support you. This time their actions were exposed, they definitely won't dare to act rashly again in a short time." Sun Luan said solemnly, "A cornered villain is not to be underestimated. This time I'm going out, I'll have to trouble you, brother." 1219. The Immortal Sect hidden underground. Ji Hongdao said proudly, "Don't worry, with me here, this group of people will never dare to be presumptuous again. Even the Chen family probably wouldn't dare to offend both the Formation Hall and the Law Enforcement Hall at the same time." Sun Luyuan clasped his fist. "Then I will thank Brother Ji in advance. My destination this time is Floating Light State, the Great Rift Valley." Upon hearing this, a trace of surprise flashed in Ji Hongdao's eyes, and he reminded, "This trip may be a bit tortuous." Looking at Sun Luyuan's somewhat surprised look, he was stunned. "What, don't you know? Because of the previous Xuanwang cataclysm, this floating light Great Rift Valley has been squeezed and re-healed. The terrain has long been unrecognizable, wanting to enter the original Rift Valley." Sun Luyuan frowned. After a long time, he sighed. If that's the case, I can only do my best and leave the rest to fate. Sun Luyuan took the immeasurable mirror, which had recovered a little vitality, and followed Ji Hongdao, escaping towards the destination. The relationship between the two was obviously unusual. On the way to the floating light Great Rift Valley, he explained the reason for this trip to Ji Hongdao in detail. Of course, he had somewhat diluted and concealed the specific power of the annihilation wind disaster that the immeasurable mirror suddenly erupted. You suspect that the ruins where the immeasurable mirror was originally discovered were actually caused by the immeasurable mirror itself. Not having personally witnessed the terrifying disaster, Ji Hongdao didn't think much about it, only considering it something that could threaten Dao integration cultivators. That's right, since it's the origin of the immeasurable mirror, perhaps we can find a way to deal with the immeasurable mirror's annihilation disaster. As long as we find some records, even if they are failures, they can be used as lessons learned. The two were talking when their expressions suddenly sank. Because they unexpectedly discovered a Dao integration cultivator from the Chen family following behind them. It's Chen Ruiyu from the Chen family. Don't get entangled with him, shake him off. Ji Hongdao transmitted his voice. A layer of white halo enveloped them, and with the blessing of the formation, the speed of the two suddenly exploded, instantly several times faster. In the blink of an eye, they had disappeared into the horizon. Chen Ruiyu saw this and hurriedly accelerated to chase after them. A moment later, Brother Ji's trick of cicada shedding its shell is truly a good one. HMPH, dealing with these idiots who only know how to refine medicine is naturally no problem. Two phantoms suddenly appeared out of thin air, and then flew away in another direction. After shaking off the Chen family's pursuit and spending most of the day, the two finally arrived at the so-called floating light state Great Rift Valley. Sun Luyuan's face twitched as he looked at a raised dragon-like mountain range on the ground. I wonder if Brother Sun still remembers the specific location back then. Ji Hongdao asked. Sun Luyuan carefully recalled. I can only determine the approximate location. Next, it depends on luck. Just then, Sun Luyuan suddenly sensed a message from his younger brother. Brother, move closer to the bottom. I seem to have a faint sense of it. Sun Luyuan was overjoyed. He flew around the mountain range, quickly locking onto the location of the sensation. Wait, just as Sun Luyuan was about to directly force his way into the ground, Ji Hongdao stopped him. He took out a flying boat. Go inside. Dust passing boat. Sun Luyuan was a little surprised, then he didn't hesitate to get in. The dust passing boat turned into a yellow light, slowly sinking into the ground like ice melting into water. Looking at the constantly changing soil layers around him, as well as the many restriction auras remaining in the ruins, Sun Luyuan sighed. Fortunately, I have Brother Ji's treasure, otherwise I would have to use a lot of methods. Ji Hongdao nodded. It was also Chief Lu's reward. She has been stuck at the Immortal Alliance headquarters recently and can't get away. So she ordered me to run errands for her. The dust-passing boat went all the way down, the boat body constantly colliding with the buried objects in the formation. The surface of the boat emitted red-orange light, dissipating the impact. Ji Hongdao would occasionally cast spells to increase the protective power of the dust-passing boat. I don't know what kind of place this Rift Valley was in ancient times, but so many ruins are buried here. Not only were there architectural ruins, but the further down they went, the more piles of corpses they saw. There were human ones, and there were also unknown giant creatures. Even the knowledgeable duo was secretly shocked. Brother, it seems to be here. Almost 3,000 feet underground, Sun Luyao finally spoke. The dust-passing boat suddenly stopped. The pressure here was already extremely high, and the red halo outside the dust-passing boat kept swirling, resolving the external pressure. Sun Luyuan and Ji Hongdao looked around, but they didn't find the ruins. The changes are too great, there's no trace of what it used to be. But the depth is indeed about the same, Sun Luyuan said. Ji Hongdao also looked around. Here. There seems to be something strange. A circular array disc flew out of his arms, suspended above his head, emitting white light around it. Under the illumination of the white light, Sun Luyuan could vaguely see some dark golden characters flashing by. There are still formation remnants. Sun Luyuan was taken aback. Although he was not proficient in formations, he still knew some basic formation principles. Brother, it seems we can enter here. Just as Ji Hongdao was using the formation to scan the surroundings, trying to find the entrance. His younger brother, Sun Luyao, found it ahead of time. Ji Hongdao immediately used the array disk's white light to verify it. Sure enough, in a place that seemed to be all hard rock, the frequency of golden characters appearing was much higher than before. Ji Hongdao closed his eyes and deduced. After a cup of tea, he let out a low shout and pointed forward. As if a talisman paper was torn open, countless golden characters shattered and scattered. The dust-passing boat took the opportunity to fly into it. And those broken characters showed signs of re-adhering. Don't worry, this is a hidden formation that can absorb underground energy and operate automatically. Looking at its formation style, it's completely different from now. It should be quite old. I have completely mastered its structure and can enter and exit at will, Ji Hongdao said proudly. Sun Luyuan repeatedly complimented. It was really the right decision to ask Brother Ji to take action this time. Otherwise, this formation alone would have troubled me for who knows how long. But what's strange is that when my brother and I came before, this formation didn't exist. Sun Luyuan suddenly became alert. Inside the immeasurable mirror, listening to his brother's conversation with Ji Hongdao, Sun Luyao secretly glanced at the phantom not far away, his heart filled with even more awe. Ji Hongdao took a cup of tea's time to break the formation. And that senior just glanced at it and found the entrance. That's right, he was able to discover this place not by some kind of feeling, but entirely by the guidance of that senior. Sensing Sun Luyao's respectful and fearful gaze, Li Fan's distraction didn't care. While Sun Luyuan and the two were still cautiously exploring here, he had already used the immeasurable mirror to complete a full scan of this ruin the moment he arrived. One beginning sect, Li Fan's tone was strange. 1220, the bones of the great wizard. The one beginning sect, along with the heavenly sword and great Tao sects, was one of the former 10 great immortal sects. However, its presence was relatively weak. Not only was there basically no contact with it in the fallen immortal realm, but it is also difficult to find relevant records in this current era. It was as if it had suddenly evaporated from the world. Except for the previous time when I accidentally learned from Senior Stone Slab that the 5 elements Grand Grotto Heaven I used to achieve the core formation stage was the work of the one beginning sect. Li Fan had never learned much more about it. Unexpectedly, today, 3,000 feet underground in this rift valley, he actually discovered traces of the one beginning sect. But it was only traces after all. The entire ruins were completely empty. Except for a stone tablet with the words, "One Beginning," faintly engraved in a collapsed building in the center of the ruins. Nothing else reminiscent of the grandeur of the ancient 10 great immortal sects could be found here. It seems that this one beginning sect was not doing very well. After questioning Sun Luyao, he learned that this was indeed the ruins where they discovered the immeasurable mirror back then. However, at that time, they only broke into a small part of the area. Now, for some unknown reason, the formations separating the different areas had disappeared, revealing the true appearance of the entire one beginning sect. Immeasurable primordial, one side visible. Li Fan's clone murmured. Silently, the immeasurable mirror once again emitted a faint light imperceptible to ordinary people. In an instant, it enveloped the entire one beginning sect ruins. Thus, a complete structural map of the ruins instantly appeared in the immeasurable mirror. Even information such as which places still had spiritual power fluctuations, which places had hidden secret rooms, and the degree of danger in each place. Everything was readily available. All of this was completed by the immeasurable mirror right under Ji Hongdao's nose. However, this formation master, who was already among the top formation masters in the 10,000 Immortal Alliance, did not notice anything at all. Li Fan couldn't help but recall the scene in his 114th life when he went from Kongyansi to Tianyu State to study formations, and Ji Hongdao personally taught thousands of formation geniuses of the 10,000 Immortal Alliance. In his eyes at the time, let alone Ji Hongdao, even Wang Fusong's formation level was something he could not reach. But after more than a dozen reincarnations, his formation level had reached a level that Ji Hongdao simply couldn't understand. I am constantly moving forward in each life, but they are always standing still. The gap in the future will only widen. Li Fan shook his head slightly as he watched Sun Luan and the other two still exploring cautiously, step by step. Without the patience to wait any longer, he directly ordered Sun Luyao to guide the two to the only place of value in the one beginning sect today. Brother Sun, be careful, the formation aura here is the most complete. Ji Hongdao reminded, leading the way. Sun Luyao was a little speechless in his heart, but he couldn't expose it. The two proceeded extremely cautiously, passing through a formation-covered wall and entering a secret room. In the innermost part of the secret room, there were two statues, one large and one small. The large one was sitting on a futon, holding a whisk. The small one was standing behind him, with a smile on his face. These strange statues immediately attracted the attention of the two. Without acting rashly, they observed carefully. It seems to be just a simple stone statue, there is no mystery. After a long time, Ji Hongdao made a judgment. Sun Luan breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing this. At the same time, in the immeasurable mirror, Li Fan glanced at the scene scanned and drawn by the primordial square formation, and then glanced at the secret room. His heart sank. Can you see those two statues? Li Fan asked Sun Luyao. Statues? What statues? Sun Luyao was stunned, feeling a little inexplicable. Tell your brother not to touch them. Li Fan didn't explain, but directly ordered. Having been reminded by Sun Luyao, Sun Luan, out of trust in his younger brother, still stopped Ji Hongdao's attempt to find out what was going on. Brother, what is the danger of this thing? However, he repeatedly looked at the stone statues for a long time, but he didn't see anything special about them. I once accidentally saw some similar records about these two statues in ancient books. They seem to be the source of the 10 sects, inheritance, the heavenly capital Great Dharma Master. Sun Luyao relayed Li Fan's judgment. Heavenly capital Great Dharma Master. Sun Luan and Ji Hongdao both took a step back. They had heard of this legendary existence. It is said to be in the realm of a half-step true immortal. And anything that can be associated with a true immortal cannot help but make people feel fear. The higher the cultivation level, the more one understands the gap between cultivators and true immortals, the more so. In the immeasurable mirror, Li Fan's clone's thoughts were running rapidly. Previously, he had suffered a great loss from the faceless true immortal stone statue. It took him 6 reincarnations to eliminate the influence of the faceless true immortal on himself. Although the heavenly capital Great Dharma Master and the faceless true immortal were not on the same level, he had also left a mark on himself back then. He had to be cautious. The one beginning sect's inheritance comes from the heavenly capital Great Dharma Master, and there are statues of the Dharma Master in the sect, which seems reasonable. But, the other 10 immortal sects do not seem to have statues of the Dharma Master. Moreover, even if they wanted to worship, they should be placed in the central solemn hall. How could they be placed in a dark underground secret room? Li Fan's intuition told him that there was something strange here. The one beginning sect doesn't seem to be a good person who respects teachers and values Tao. According to Senior Stone Slab's description, as early as when the great calamity of the Xuanwang world first appeared, they had prepared a plan to cultivate the 5 elements Grand Grotto Heaven, directly devour the Xuanwang, and create a brand new cultivation world. It's just that it was later stopped by someone. The one who stopped the one beginning sect was undoubtedly Mr. Bai. Before the Xuanwang world was completely opposed to cultivators, cultivators still respected the heavenly Tao. Heaven and earth gave birth and nurtured, like the parents of cultivators. But the one beginning sect cut off the essence of heaven and earth without any mercy. It's no different from the new law cultivators. Heavenly capital Great Dharma Master. Li Fan once again scanned the heavenly capital Great Dharma Master stone statue with the primordial square formation. There are 2 stone statues, one large and one small. According to rumors, it was the one sitting who imparted countless techniques and secret arts to the 10 sects. But the intuition in the dark told Li Fan that the standing boy might be even more extraordinary. So the primordial square formation focused on the smiling boy statue. The immeasurable faint light swept across the area where the stone statue was located again and again. Each time after a scan, some lines slowly appeared in the picture displayed in the immeasurable mirror. But at the same time, these lines were slowly disappearing over time. Li Fan narrowed his eyes and accelerated the scanning speed of the immeasurable mirror. The lines were able to slowly accumulate again. Brother, help me. Unable to withstand the overload, Sun Luyao asked his brother for help. Only after receiving the support of Sun Luan's blood essence was the immeasurable mirror finally able to see the true face of the stone statue in the secret room clearly. Those were 2 bones. It was as if the flesh and blood of some kind of creature had been completely stripped away, leaving only 2 bones.